Chapter 301 My purpose is very big. At the shrine, Enlil summoned the three priests. When they reached the entrance of the shrine, Gidaz bit his lower lip, hummed with his eyes wide open. If no one reminded him, he would have kept humming. Om and Shura beside him had long been accustomed to him like this. Om reminded. Of course you can't speak if you bite your lower lip. Ah! Gidaz let go of his lower lip, looking as if he had suddenly realized something. Shura was silent at this time yesterday. In just 2 days, he was suppressed by 2 people, a Qinghai man and a forest mask. At this time, the door of the shrine opened with a click, and the 3 of them immediately drew their weapons and retreated like frightened birds. However, the god soldier Yama, who looked like a wall, appeared. Sighing, Yama said in a tone of regret. Here you are again, what are you doing? You are so useless. Shut up! The 3 shouted together. They were not guarding against Yemo, but Enlil every time they came. Enlil would give them a surprise, so it was no wonder that they were so cautious. Yeah, it's useless. At this time, a voice that the 3 people felt a little familiar was heard again. Bai Yun walked out from behind Yemo, and Yemo's body was enough to cover Bai Yun. It's you! The 3 shouted again in tacit understanding, and Shura reacted the most. He took a step and was about to attack. Bai Yun pulled out the pistol from his waist. Don't move. Although there was only 1 bullet, Bai Yun's tone was confident as if he had infinite bullets. Why are you here? Om stretched out his knife and pointed the tip of the knife at Bai Yun and asked. Yes, what is your purpose? Gidaz didn't bite his lower lip this time, but his hands crossed and stretched down. A divine attendant reminded, Lord Gidaz, that will be very tiring. Holding your arms means inserting your hands into the inside of your elbows. Gidaz suddenly realized it again. But it wouldn't last long. He probably forgot it when he turned his head. My goal is big, I'll scare you to death if I tell you. Facing the 3 people, Bai Yun's attitude and tone were nonchalant. Yamo glanced at him and shouted. Alright, are you done yet? You dare to be so presumptuous in front of God? In front of God, then where do you say God is? Shura asked. There was only an empty throne in front of him, and Enlil was not on it. There is a flaw. And suddenly there was a sound from behind, and before Om and the other 2 could react, they were electrocuted by Enlil, who turned over and fell down. Bai Yun immediately dodged, and Enlil turned over several times in a row and finally lay steadily on the throne, supporting his head with his palm. Ahahaha! I am God. I'm right here. Go back and practice your kung fu is not good enough yet. You don't want to fail miserably like Daigo. Taking a piece of fruit, Enlil stood up and glanced at Bai Yun again. Bai Yun pretended not to see it. And he couldn't afford to lose face in front of these 3 people. Enlil raised his eyebrows, but said nothing. What are you doing? You're just teasing us like this. You summoned us urgently, just for this. Also, why is this Qinghai guy here? Complaints from Om and the other 2. Ha ha ha, I'm too bored, sit down first. Enlil replied. Although he was smiling, if the 3 dared not to sit down, he could guarantee that they would never get up again after sitting down. The 3 put away their weapons and sat on the ground. Enlil pointed at Bai Yun and explained, and shot a lightning bolt at him. He is the new priest who replaced Daigo, Bai Yun. Bai Yun dodged the lightning and said to Om and the other 3. Give me more advice in the future, seniors. This. Shura wanted to stand up, but he didn't dare to question the decision of God, and the other 2 were the same. Humph! In the end, it just turned into a cold snort to Bai Yun. Gidaz just looked at Bai Yun twice more. And Om, although he had only seen him once, always felt that this Bai Yun was very familiar. Chapter 302 Golden War. Although Om and the other 2 were very confused and unhappy about Bai Yun becoming the new priest and their new colleague, they did not dare to ask about God's choice as priests, they knew Enel's strength best. Well, there is no need for a hypocritical welcome ceremony, Enel said. Indeed, I don't think there will be any good ceremony. Although the welcome ceremony for himself was cancelled, Bai Yun agreed he didn't really come to join. For some reason, after becoming a god for several years, these people only obey his orders. Bai Yun's appearance makes Enel feel interesting. You are right, Enel replied, and then ignored Bai Yun and talked about business. You don't seem to take those Qinghai people seriously. Their goal is gold. Obviously, either Enel heard Luffy's plan by the altar lake, or the Qinghai people who came to Sky Island and knew the existence of the Golden Country. Who wouldn't want to have an idea that's gold? They should take action tomorrow, and Shandia will attack again. Therefore, tomorrow this island of God will be completely open to you. In fact, Proverbs is almost complete, and we must make a conclusion on this island as soon as possible. Proverbs. Bai Yun repeated it. Enel looked at him. You will know in the end. You will also go to the trial tomorrow. It doesn't matter if there is no specific trial site, it doesn't matter how it is conducted, no need to worry about the rules, it's okay to make a big fuss. That looks like it will be fun, even if the island is broken in half, it doesn't matter. Bai Yun asked. Ha 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 ha, it's best if you have that ability. Enel laughed, took the apple he was tossing in his hand, and took a bite. Don't let me down. Only when you solve it perfectly can you set off to the world of dreams. Bai Yun was holding back his laughter. So these three guys can forget about going. I'll tell you. There was definitely someone here yesterday. What I saw was real, I was definitely not dreaming. Mary is fixed. Usopp shouted, pointing at the Mary on the altar. I saw pieces of iron sheets on Mary, and the mast was also rotated up and connected by iron sheets, which looked like a person covered with band-aids. Everyone returned to the ship. Although they felt strange, the Mary was indeed repaired. But the strange thing was that after the Mary was repaired, it completely returned to its original appearance. The comb and wings in the previous flying mode were removed. Why did the person who repaired the ship know that the Mary had no tail and wings before, and where was the comb? What do you think, Mary, who repaired your? Usopp murmured as he looked at Mary's sheep bow. Bai Yun patted his shoulder. Anyway, it's always a good thing that the Mary is repaired. Don't think too much. Mr. Wulong knows. The arrangements made by Miss Orange Hair are more important now. Usopp agreed after hearing this. Indeed, I can't understand it now. Let's go over, White Forest Mask. The two looked at each other and couldn't help laughing. Whether it was Wulong Nose or White Forest Mask, they were a little funny. Nami took the map to explain to everyone. The plan was to split the troops into two groups. The expedition team is responsible for searching for gold at the ancient ruins. The retreat team will follow the Cloud River back to the exit of the Island of Gods, and then go around the Island of Gods from the exit to the coast north of the ancient ruins, where they will wait to join the expedition team. This is the plan, called Golden Operation. There is no detail, just pure recklessness. The expedition team members are Luffy, Zoro, Robin, Chopper. The retreat team members are Baiun, Sanji, Usopp, Nami, and of course Gonfer and Pierre. Okay. Let's go. With a smile, everyone started this golden operation. Chapter 303-5. The Straw Hat Pirates started the golden operation. If they succeed, as Nami said, they will become the Monopoly Pirates and can buy whatever they want in the future. However, how can they get the clearance reward without defeating the final boss? At this time, the survival battle in the God's Island has also begun. The Straw Hat Pirates, Sandia, and the Shrine are three forces. It's a mess. Luffy's four-member expedition team had just taken a few steps when an accident happened. The huge Sky Island Lord appeared, and its fangs were open enough to swallow three Marys. Because of its appearance, Luffy and his four companions were forced to disperse. Their original route was to walk straight south from the altar to find the ruins. And now only Robin is still on the right route. Chopper went southeast. Luffy went southwest. And Zoro, who lived up to everyone's expectations, turned back and found that he was back to the starting point when he reached the end. At the shrine. Now, only Enelu and some god servants with no fighting power are left. Have they reached the bottom? Enelu asked. The attendant replied respectfully, yes, they have all gone down. Led by the trials of 3-4 priests, plus the chief of the divine soldiers with 50 elite divine soldiers, this is a full-scale deployment. God, is it necessary to be so cautious? The opponents are only Shandia and a few Qinghai people. Ha ha ha, the festival is fun only when it is lively. In Enel's mouth, the life and death survival battle is just a festival for fun. A total of 83 people, this is a big melee related to survival, ha ha ha. After 3 hours, guess how many people will be left? Enelu asked the question. The attendant didn't dare not reply, but said that this was an area he was not good at, but Enelu said that he relied on his feelings. So the attendant naturally didn't dare to refuse. It is estimated that there will be 50 people left after 3 hours. Enelu laughed directly at the words, and the fruit pulp in his mouth sprayed out. No, it's too naive to think that way, you underestimate. After 3 hours, the survival battle on this island will only be left with. As he spoke, Enelu stretched out a hand, spread out his 5 fingers, and said in a very confident tone, 5 people. Why did you come with me, you rubbish Qinghai man? Shura sat cross-legged on a protruding stone, looked up at Bai Yun standing on the branch and asked, the gods have said that there are no restrictions on rules and venues. You are a senior, I can learn from you, right? Bai Yun replied, saying so, but his tone was full of ridicule. Shura is not stupid, not that stupid, he could tell, snorted coldly, and just as he was about to continue speaking, he noticed movement, and said to Bai Yun in tacit understanding, here they come. Many Shandia people emerged from the forest, rushing fiercely, but suddenly stopped, strangely stopped in the air, and did not fall. That was due to the small rope clouds that filled this space. How despicable, Senior Shura! But, the biggest one was not caught. Bai Yun said. Shura naturally knew. With a whoosh, Wappa fell from the sky and bypassed the rope cloud. Go up, cross your legs. Don't think you can defeat me in the air. Wappa fired a shot, but was dodged by Shura. Shura went up with a spear, flames emerged from it, and the tip of the spear stabbed fiercely. However, unexpectedly, Wappa actually threw away his weapon and shield. The tip of the spear pierced Wappa's shoulder. Of course, Shura wanted to stab his throat, but Wappa was not stupid. Why throw away the shield and weapon? Shura was shocked and puzzled. Wappa did not answer, but stretched out his right hand and pressed it on Shura's chest. As a priest, he was naturally familiar with the shellfish in the air he needed to get so close to exert the greatest power. Only the impact shellfish. Do you want to defeat me with this impact shellfish? Chapter 304. Send me some. As a priest, Shura is naturally familiar with the impact shells, and of course he knows that he can still withstand the impact shells even though he was hit by Bai Yun's attack and air pressure technique on his chest with a spear, and is now bandaged. He should still be able to withstand it. But if it is multiplied by 10, then it will be GG. Here, half of my shoulder, take it if you want it, but I'll give you my life voice. The volley, which is 10 times more powerful than the impact, exploded at such a close distance. Shura's eyes rolled back, and the bandage on his chest was stained red by the blood, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Wappa took his hand back, and Shura fell straight back and couldn't get up again. At the beginning of the survival battle, 1 person was eliminated, and 82 people remained. The volley was powerful, but it was a move that hurt 1,000 enemies and 800 of its own. Bai Yun admitted that Wappa's physique, if he was his clone, he would probably be crippled with just 1 move. Wappa, do you want to die if you use the volley again? you will be blown away too, Mantis shouted. Wappa ignored him and raised his special shoulder-fired cannon weapon to Bai Yun on the branch. Bai Yun was silent and had a dull expression. He suddenly raised his hand and clapped. Pa pa pa, it's amazing, you defeated Shura with one move, although it's not a difficult task. Do you have any more rage abi? Give me a few. Bai Yun stretched out his hand, looking as if he was getting something for free. At the shrine, Enel's laughter sounded. Ha 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 ha. You are so happy, what happened? God, the enemy general was defeated. Seeing Enel laughing, the attendant guessed correctly. Who knew what Enel's answer would be? Shura was defeated, ha 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 ha. Attendant. Bai Yun was so confident that even Wappa was slightly stunned. Calling Shura a senior, you have also become Enel's running dog. This is what Wappa thought in his heart, but he would not say it out loud. Instead, he fired directly. Bai Yun pulled out the ordinary long sword he got from the shrine's armory, raised it and chopped it down, splitting the cannonball in two. Bai Yun, who has mastered the swordsmanship of Shanks, Hawkeye, and Zoro, can do this. If the main body is serious and only fights with moves, Zoro is really not his opponent, but in terms of the perception of swordsmanship, Bai Yun is naturally not as good as Zoro. Holding the sword with one hand, his eyes are sharp and exuding momentum. Wappa felt a greater power in Bai Yun than Shura. The hand holding the barrel kept tightening, but the next second Bai Yun turned around and ran. The divine soldiers with sharp horns on their heads, wings on their backs, long earlobes, and voices like goats joined the battle. The slashing shells in their hands were weapons that could easily cut off the shields of the Shandayans. On Luffy's side, he beat his shoulders with branches to make rhythm and sang a nice song that Garp taught him after he and Bai Yun arrived at Dodon's house. Bai Yun repeatedly asked him not to sing anymore, at least not where he could hear it. It's too magical, this voice is all in my head when I go to sleep at night. Turning around, he knocked out the unethical divine soldier like Bellamy with a punch, and then he met Wappa again. With Wappa's position and character, he had to fight. The two fought for a few moves, and after each other took the rubber rocket launcher and the incendiary cannon with full confidence, Luffy fell into the mouth of the Lord of the Sky just as they were about to continue fighting. Well, before reaching the vines, Luffy's part is over. Zoro is still looking for the direction to get back to the right route, chanting right, right, right. Then keep going left. The useless team spirit appears. The difference is that Luffy's is a divine weapon, a sneak attack, while the Shandayans that Zoro encountered are frontal attacks. The same thing is that they are all solved with one move. Zoro drew his sword and used the handle to give the Shandayans who came to kill him a big dice. He put away the sword and continued to walk. A miserable shout came over. I give up, spare me. It was a divine weapon with a bloody face, and the next second it was shot in the head. Zoro immediately held the handle again when he saw it. Bukaram, one of the main forces of the Shandayans, appeared. Chapter 305 My Master and Half-Master. Zoro's journey to find the right route is currently going further and further, and then he met Bukaram, one of the main generals of Shandia, who was playing with two guns. Here we go again. If you are not a god or a priest, don't provoke me, I'm on my way. Zoro said. But Bukaram obviously didn't listen. And raised his double guns and fired bullets. Bukaram's double guns are called flash guns. Every time a bullet is fired from the muzzle, a strong light will be emitted to interfere with the enemy's sight. It is a weapon that combines a pistol and a flash bomb. The strong light made Zoro unable to open his eyes, and he immediately dodged the bullet. Bukaram stepped on the tree trunk to gain leverage and jumped up, occupying the high altitude to continue chasing Zoro, but then he heard, "Don't move." Bukaram's alarm bell immediately rang, and his body rotated in the air and fired 2 shots in the direction of the sound. Then there were 2 gunshots over there, and the bullets on both sides collided and offset each other in the air, and fell to the ground after sparks popped out. Bukaram looked at the 4 bullets embedded on the ground, and his heart was shocked at the same time. he focused all his attention on the dark place on the tree. He was practicing shooting. So he naturally knew that it was not impossible to shoot down the bullets shot by the opponent, but it required strong capture and reaction, and accuracy. The bullet position, shooting reaction, and accuracy, at such a close distance, the opponent can do it. He is definitely a master of guns. Zoro stood up, and the hand that was originally holding the handle of the knife was taken down, and like Bukaram, he looked at the dark place with branches of the big tree on his left. Bai Yun. Zoro called out his name. As expected, Bai Yun's figure appeared from the dark place, holding 2 pistols in his lowered hands. Now that many Shandians have been defeated, you can pick up 2 guns at will. What Bai Yun? Now please call me, Priest Bai Yun. This is the trial of the gun with a 100% survival rate. Don't kill, just cripple, the main thing is to play. Bai Yun perfectly adapted to his current identity as a priest. Zoro did not answer. It was not surprising that Bai Yun did this. He is handed over to you. Zoro said. Bai Yun nodded and smiled. Of course, it will be your turn soon, I will find you. Zoron's mouth corners slightly raised, really into the play, okay, I'll wait. After saying that, Zoro turned around and ran, but in the wrong direction. Zoron left, and only Bai Yun on the branch and Bukaram on the ground were left on the scene. Both of them were gunmen, and this was a gun duel. Bai Yun raised his double guns, and Bukaram immediately guarded. In terms of gun skills, I only admire 2 people. My master and half-master. Eat, drink, whore, gamble, Beckman. Abandon wife and children. Jesus Bulletin. You, don't let me down. After saying that, Bai Yun fired instantly, and bullets sprayed out. Bukaram has been on guard, and also raised his double guns to fire. 1 bullet was blocked, and the other passed by Bai Yun's bullet. Bai Yun just sideways to avoid the bullet. Bukaram showed a little panic, moved to the right, and narrowly avoided it. Not bad, it's amazing to be able to block 1. Bai Yun said in a tone of praise, which was fine for his own people, but it was like a mockery for the enemy. But Bai Yun was indeed praising him without the color of observation. He could intercept bullets with bullets, which showed how much training he had done in spearmanship. Flash gun, not bad, can you give it to me? Bai Yun continued, just as he asked Wappa for the repelling shell in the rope trial of Shura. I admit your spearmanship, Ching Hai. People. Buaram replied. Oh, so, you want to admit defeat? Bai Yun asked. Buaram shook his head. Sandia will never admit defeat, and the lamp of Shandora will light up again at 1 o'clock. After saying this, Buaram seemed to have added a layer of buff to himself. His momentum soared, and the mighty power under his feet burst out, and he took the initiative to attack Bai Yun. Chapter 306. Gun fighting. The wind and clouds surged. The forest of the Gods Island became very lively, and people fell every moment. Not far from the southeast of the altar, gunshots rang out. It was Bai Yun and Buaram fighting with guns. Since going out to sea, I have never met anyone with good gun skills. Last time, Oka Bai Yun only wanted to beat Blackbeard, and he used all the abilities of the replica, not the gun skills. This time, fighting with Buaram with guns, I can do my best. For Shandia, to relight the lamp of Shandora, Buaram took the initiative to attack Bai Yun. The Vayaba under his feet burst forward, and Buaram raised his 2 guns, but aimed at different directions, one at Bai Yun and the other at the branches under his feet. Bai Yun can dodge, but the branches can't. White light flashed, bullets shot out, but Bai Yun closed his eyes tightly, raised a gun and fired, intercepting one of Buaram's bullets. The other bullet hit the branch accurately, and with a snap, the branch broke directly. At this time, Buaram followed the Vayaba and rushed to the bottom of Bai Yun's feet. After leveling, he bent down and fired the bullet at Bai Yun's feet. For a moment, he felt strange, but Buaram did not stop. He stood up, took out the yunbei in his belt and shot a yunzichuan that looked like a crutch. His feet did not stop. The Vayaba under his feet rode on the yunzichuan and came to the end. The whole person was directly upside down. He raised the double bridge and aimed at Bai Yun, but he was stunned for a moment. According to Bueram's calculation, Bai Yun should fall from the branch now, and the position where he fell is now at the same level as when he was hanging upside down on Yun Zichuan with his hands holding the gun. But Bai Yun's figure was not seen after the branch broke. He was still standing on it steadily, as if there was an invisible branch supporting him. The bullet that Bueram shot just now was embedded in the ground, because it was bounced down by the air cannon that exploded from Bai Yun's air pressure technique. Bai Yun turned around slowly, his eyes still closed. "You don't seem to know that I can fly." "Fly?" Bukaram fell from Yun Zichuan with powerlessness. Vayaba is not a magnet, and Yun Zichuan is not iron, so he can't stick to it. With a flip to adjust his body shape, Bueram didn't fall head first because of his moves. However, just as he turned over and fell, Bai Yun shot instantly. The bullet was aimed at Bueram's feet. Bueram immediately raised his legs and rushed forward with Vayaba's wind power. Bai Yun also took a step at this time, leaning down, and bullets from both hands poured out. Bueram had nowhere to hide, and then raised his two guns and shot at Bai Yun. White light, sparks flying. Vayaba couldn't fly, so he could only glide temporarily with the wind. Bueram fell in a parabola and staggered. Two blood holes were clearly visible on his left shoulder and right leg. Before he could move, Bai Yun's voice and gun muzzle had already attacked. "Don't move!" feeling the muzzle of the gun against the back of his head. Bukaram did not show any obvious panic, trading injuries for injuries. "It's really brave. Are you Shandians so reckless?" Bai Yun said. "Only in this way can there be a possibility of victory." Bukaram replied indifferently. Bai Yun couldn't help shaking his head. "You are still too naive." After Bai Yun finished speaking, Bukaram actually felt the muzzle of the gun leave the back of his head. No matter what, he chose to turn around and wave his hand to hit. Bai Yun squatted down to avoid it, and when he stood up, the two guns had been retracted to his waist. Then he stretched out his hands to hold Bukaram's wrists, and twisted them hard. Bukaram felt pain, his hands loosened, and the two guns fell. Bai Yun immediately let go of his wrists, caught the two guns, and accepted them without hesitation. "Thank you for your gift." Bai Yun put a flash gun against Bukaram's chest and said. Bukaram looked at Bai Yun's right shoulder, which he was confident of hitting, and saw that there was no wound on it. Only a hole in his clothes. Chapter 307. Take off your mask. Have a good rest. Baguio. Bai Yun hit Baguio with a knife, and Bukaram flew backwards and hit a tree. After his human figure was imprinted on it, he fell to the ground and couldn't get up again. He couldn't figure out how Bai Yun blocked the bullet, or did he miss? After Shura, the main force of the Shandians lost one person. The battle in the forest became fierce, but the main battle had just begun. On the main general side, only Shura and Bukaram were defeated. After Chopper deviated from the direction, he moved forward from the southeast. Along the way, the fighting between the Shandians and the divine soldiers scared him to death. While rushing on the road and avoiding being involved in the battle, Chopper happened to run to the site of the swamp trial of Gadaz. Beast! I'm totally lost. Everyone. Luffy, Zoro, Robin. Chopper passed by Gadaz with tears in his eyes, and ignored him because he was too sad. Gadaz just crossed his hands and put them down, and followed Chopper's eyes as he walked over, thinking in his heart, "It's a fox." The IQ of these two people is comparable. Enilu's observation color covers the whole country. Basically, any movement can't escape his ears. For example, Luffy's plans, their plans, and their groupings, Enilu heard them clearly. So, he came to the Mary and intercepted the retreating group of the Straw Hat Pirates. "Stop!" The moment Enilu appeared, he opened his mouth, and Sanji turned and kicked him before his foot arrived. He was covered by lightning. The shouting of Forest Mask Bayun was too late. Sanji was scorched by lightning and his clothes became tattered. "Sanji! Sanji! Sanji!" Nami and Usopp immediately came to Sanji and shouted worriedly. Gonfer's forehead was covered with sweat. "Don't move." Bayun drew out his double guns and pointed them at Enel. "Sanji, cheer up. I can't hear his heartbeat." Usopp touched Sanji's chest with his hand, but didn't feel any beating. And shouted in a desperate tone. Nami couldn't believe it either, liar. And the culprit Enel didn't feel anything because of his actions. Ah ha ha ha, what a fool, I'm not here to hurt you. Put that toy, put it down, it's useless to me. The second sentence, Enel was obviously talking to Bai Yun. Then what are you doing here? Gonfer shouted. Ahaha, your tone is too cold, we haven't seen each other for 6 years. Former god, Gonfer. Enel's tone and expression never took anyone in front of him seriously, no matter where he was. Usopp's brain was already hit by the sadness of Sanji's death. Beast, this guy killed Sanji. Sanji, if Chopper was here. I can't hear anything, I can't hear anything, my heart is not beating, hey Sanji. Bai Yun couldn't listen anymore, and he didn't pretend anymore. Usopp, touch the right side. Usopp was enlightened. Wow, the heart is beating. Great, he's alive. It's just a serious injury, he might die. What, this is terrible. This is bad. Nami and Usopp kept talking to themselves as if Enelu didn't exist. Enelu raised his eyebrows, although he was smiling, but that smile was obviously murderous. Just then he saw his figure flash. Bayun had been paying attention to him, and seeing him like this, he immediately tripped. Ah! Usopp was tripped forward, his nose was nailed directly to the deck, and the lightning from Enelu's fingertips flew past his head. Enelu didn't expect that he would miss, and stared at Bayun. Take off your mask. Chapter 308 Bayun vs Enelu. Take off your mask. After the forest mask Bai used a tripping method to help Usopp avoid Enel's lightning, Enel finally said this. Why don't you tell me why you came here, God Enel? Bai Yun replied. Hehe, I just came to say goodbye to my old friend Gonfer. The big project that took 6 years has come to an end. Which means that I have no interest in this island at that time. It's just funny to think that sky dwellers like Gonfer have always treated this island as an ordinary island. Those know, why do you Qinghai people keep coming to Sky Island? Come here, isn't it for the legendary Golden City that once flourished in Qinghai? Everyone just wants to get Chandara's legacy. Gonfer was puzzled. Gold, what are you talking about? Enelu looked at Bai Yun and laughed, ha ha ha, look, this group of stupid people, they know the value of gold even though it's right in front of them, it's so funny every time I think about it, ha ha ha. Enelu laughed wildly, just like the 4 laughing heroes of Uchiha, but suddenly, the laughter stopped, and his eyes were still on Bai Yun. Now, take off your mask. This time, Enelu's tone was that if Bai Yun didn't do it himself, he would do it himself. Bai Yun also laughed when he heard him say that. Ha ha ha. Do you really want to see my face? Isn't it just to see if I look different from my stupid Ou Daodu? As Bai Yun said this, he took off the fox mask on his face and revealed his own face. My stupid brother is under your care, God Enelu. Brother. Nami, Usopp, and Gonfer didn't know there was another priest named Bai Yun, so they were confused. Brother. Enelu doubted what Bai Yun said, but he didn't have any evidence, so he didn't care. 1 Bai Yun or 2 Bai Yuns made no difference to him. The only difference was that if they were hostile to him, he would just kill them. Your brother is much more interesting than you, yeah ha ha ha. Tell me, if I kill you, will your brother still work for me? I was thinking, if I kill you, my stupid brother should come back. Facing Enelu's murderous intent, Bai Yun showed no fear at all, and was even a little arrogant. Enelu heard the words, and the smile on his face disappeared. Sure enough, you are not as interesting as your brother. After saying that, Enel launched an attack at a very fast speed, but Bai Yun could still keep up. Bai Yun flew up and dodged his outstretched hand. He did a somersault in the air and stood upside down and fired 2 shots at Enel. Enel originally disdained such an attack, as lightning could not hit him. However, his observation haki sensed the smell of threat and made him step to the right to avoid it. The bullets pierced the deck with 2 clicks. Looking at the pierced deck, Enel flashed into the air and confronted Bai Yun. What is your ability? 2 bullets can make me feel the breath of danger. Although he said danger, Enel's tone did not show much care. Guess. These 2 words are almost becoming Bai Yun's catchphrase. Enel raised his eyebrows. I guess your grandma. He raised his finger and a bolt of lightning struck. Bai Yun dodged sideways, the lightning shining on his face before his body turned back. Enel was in front of him and kicked him in the chest. After being kicked hard, Bai Yun's figure retreated violently and stopped before hitting the tree trunk. Putting down his foot, Enel had already felt the presence of armed color. Can invisible armor resist attacks and lightning? Is this your ability? Bai Yun stretched out his tongue and licked the blood from the corner of his mouth. I told you, guess. You are awesome if you guessed right. Chapter 309 You Can Die Now. The survival battle on the God's Island is going on fiercely. Someone falls down every once in a while. As for the main force, currently, the priest Shura was killed by Wappa at the beginning, Shandia Baram was defeated by the priest Baiun, Luffy, and Wappa during the battle. He accidentally fell into the mouth of the Lord of the Sky and was temporarily banned. However, Enelu, the final boss of the Island of Gods, was found on the Mary at this time. Forest Mask Baiun vs God Enelu. You guessed it right, you are awesome. Enelu, like Shura and Om, has never seen armament haki. Are all the people who have come to Sky Island in recent years so useless? But even if the armament haki covered part of his chest, Baiun took a solid kick from Enelu, and it was still uncomfortable. It seems that the clone has to be renamed 15 minutes of real man, and 30 minutes at night. Facing Baiun's words, Enelu is not in the mood to ask more since Baiun's mouth will bleed. This invisible armor is not that hard. I personally think that armament haki is colorless, but armament haki hardening is colored, including other uses. Now Bai Yun's armament haki is only elementary, and the clone cannot reach the hardening level, so it is written as invisible armor. It is better to write color at the end, at least it is easy to express. Bang bang! 30 million volts Thunderbird. Enelu raised the golden stick in his hand and hit the drum on his right shoulder, showing the lightning he created from the drum. And then the lightning turned into a phoenix-shaped Thunderbird and flew towards Bai Yun at high speed. I didn't find the trick that used 3000 volts so early. Although Enelu didn't care, he was still very concerned about the attack that made him avoid it actively and the armament haki. Facing the 3000 volt Thunderbird, Bai Yun knew that he couldn't stop it with his own strength using the sword moves of Shanks, Hawkeye, and Zoro, so he could only use the more skilled Baguio. With a wrist turn, Bai Yun took a step forward in the air and slashed with his sword. A powerful shock wave erupted, and the Thunderbird was dispersed by the shock wave when it was 1 meter in front of Bai Yun. The 2 long swords in Bai Yun's hand, the one that hit the hegemony, were instantly shattered. Seeing that Bai Yun blocked it, Enelu did not react much, nor did he want to recruit Bai Yun. He just said that if he killed Bai Yun, he would see if Bai Yun, the priest who was his little brother, would continue to work for him. God would not go back on his word. Enelu continued to attack decisively. Bang bang! 30 million volts Thunder Beast. This time it was the drum that struck the left shoulder, and lightning appeared from the drum, forming a wolf beast-shaped thunder wolf that ran towards Bai Yun at high speed. Bai Yun's response method did not change, and the remaining long sword was also shattered. Bai Yun threw away the 2 knife handles without hesitation and pulled out 2 of the 8 guns on his waist. And with this action, Enel had already approached and killed him. He expected that there would be only 5 people left in the final survival battle. Time was running out, and he couldn't waste it here. God's prophecy would not go wrong. Enel was serious, and he was in front of Bai Yun in an instant. With the speed of lightning, the golden stick stretched out and went straight to Bai Yun's chest. He knew there was an invisible armor on it, but he didn't believe that he couldn't break it. Bai Yun didn't care about anything else. It was too late to take back the 2 guns in his hands, so he just threw them away, and then concentrated his armed color on his fists, and suddenly grabbed the golden stick that was stretched out. But Enel's strength was not exhausted, and he pressed Bai Yun to retreat continuously until Bai Yun's back hit the tree trunk and stopped. However, Bai Yun also successfully stopped the golden stick, and the end of the stick did not touch his chest. Yet, ha 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 ha, I admit your strength. But you can die now. 60 million volts, discharge. The lightning flashed, and Bai Yun couldn't open his eyes. The 60 million volts of electricity passed along the golden stick to Bai Yun, but in an instant, Bai Yun was swallowed by lightning. Bai Yun. Nami and Usopp, who were fighting with Daigo's two younger brothers, saw the situation here and couldn't help shouting as the Mary turned along the Cloud River. Their view of Bai Yun and Enel was completely blocked. Chapter 310 Two Bai Yuns. Bai Yun. Enel was serious. Bai Yun had no way to avoid the speed of lightning. He could only intercept it with his hands. This was exactly what Enel wanted. The 60 million volts of lightning passed along the golden stick to Bai Yun. Nami and Usopp shouted worriedly. However, the next second, Daigo's two younger brothers attacked again. The Mary also turned along the Cloud River, and their sight of Bai Yun and Enel disappeared. Lightning flashed. Bai Yun was completely swallowed by lightning, and Enel's laughing expression was very obvious under the light. When the lightning disappeared, he could no longer laugh, and even opened his mouth in surprise. Under the 60 million volt lightning strike, the tree was completely turned into ashes, and Bai Yun had nothing else on his body except his clothes being burned and 6 guns being melted. This is impossible. Bai Yun smiled back. There are so many possible things in this world. It seems that you are not omniscient and omnipotent. How can you be called a god like this? Bai Yun let go of the golden stick with one hand, gathered strength, and pushed it back, hitting the bottom of the golden stick with his palm. This time the force was not small, and Enel was also shocked back a few steps. Just when he thought Bai Yun was going to make a move, he saw Bai Yun turn around and run away. Enelu remained silent, turned into lightning and chased after him. He had to figure out what was going on. What he didn't know was that Bai Yun was only immune to lightning for a short 15 minutes, and what he didn't know was that there was another person on the island who was permanently immune to his lightning, the man of electricity. During the time when Bai Yun and Enel were fighting, the survival battle was also going on non-stop. On the Cloud River, on the Mary, Daigo's two younger brothers, this time Usopp was not burned by electricity. Gonfer was not stabbed by Shura, and together with Nami, the two were defeated quickly. Then Gonfer chose to leave to chase Enel and put an end to everything. After he left, Nami and the others met the father and daughter of Konis who broke into the Island of God at this time, and the little girl Aisha from Shandia who was born with the color of observation. Outskirts of the Shandora ruins. The godly Captain Yama brought a circle of slashing bays and used his body meatball to attack and defeated Lady Jebeo, one of the main forces of Shandia, and then met Robin who was closest to the ruins. And the battle was triggered again. The swamp trial field. Gidaz was defeated by Chopper's shoe-taking tactics and Sakura treading hoof in his own domain. He exerted his own strength and sent himself completely into the swamp cloud. It was unclear whether the swamp cloud connected to there or directly fell to the Sky Island. The ruins of Shandora are just ahead. You can already see the huge vines covered by clouds. Enelu is on it. The one who said this was the main force of Shandia, Mantis. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Enelu and Bayun rushed past him. Bayun fought back and forth with Enelu holding the golden stick with his bare hands. Enelu was still puzzled. The long stick poked Bayun, just like poking the swamp cloud, soft and fluffy. This should be the reason why Bayun was ineffective against lightning strikes. What kind of ability is this? There is no rubber in the Sky Island, which is a blind spot in Enelu's knowledge. In addition, Bayun did not stretch his arms and puff up his body like Luffy. Enelu was so surprised that he didn't think that this was a bit like what he heard about Luffy's ability. Enel. Mantis and the only remaining Shandia warrior behind him shouted in surprise. What was even more surprising was that Bayun had become a priest, right? Why did he fight with Enel, and he could actually fight back and forth with him? Enel ignored Mantis and the other small fish. He was very puzzled now since Bai Yun didn't say anything, he could only kill him to feel relieved. However, at this time, another Bai Yun who defeated Bukaram also rushed out from one end of the forest. The two clones of Bai Yun in the Sky Island copy met. And Mantis and the others were even more dizzy. What the hell is going on? Chapter 311 God, Injured. The survival battle on the Island of Gods has unknowingly come to an end. There are 4 priests, 2 of whom have been eliminated, and there is an undercover. The main force of Shandia is only Wappa. Mantis and Lakai left. Under the angry Miss Robin, the captain of the Divine Soldiers, Yamo, was rolled down the cliff like a ball in the middle, a crane separated the fat body fell down head first, and half of the body hit the ground obviously, it could not get up again. On the Straw Hat Pirates' side, Luffy was still banned, Sanji was electrocuted by Enelu, and could only lie on the bed for the time being. Chopper climbed up along the vines, striving to be the first person to reach the ruins and surprise others. Unfortunately, he encountered Ohm's iron trial and was stabbed by the iron thorns and fell down. Let's go back to the forest, Bai Yun's side. The purpose of the Shandia people is very simple, and there is no strategy. It is to forcefully break in, forcefully fight, and go to the shrine on the vines to kill Enelu. There is no need to consider whether they can beat them or how many people are left when they break in there. And just when Mantis was thinking about it, Enelu took the initiative to appear and chase Bai Yun, chasing Bai Yun, who they thought had become a priest. Before he could figure out what was going on, another Bai Yun appeared, standing on the branch behind Enel. Ah, it's so lively! Seeing the appearance of the priest Bai Yun, Enel stopped his thunder-like attack. Forest Mask Bai Yun took the opportunity to distance himself, panting the clone's strength was good enough to fight the priest, but not enough to fight Enel. Without weapons, relying only on physical skills, it just so happened that physical skills were Bai Yun's weakest. If it weren't for the armed color and the current 15-minute rubber fruit ability, Enel would not be able to survive a few moves under the attack of lightning. You came at the right time. This brother who looks like you is very difficult to deal with. Come with me to take him down. Enel smiled as if he was ready to watch the show as the pride of God. He naturally didn't need help from others, he just wanted to watch the brothers quarrel. Brother. Hearing this, Mantis and the others understood what was going on. It turned out that they were twins. Okay, respected God, I've been annoyed by my stupid brother for a long time. Bai Yun, who changed to cooperate with the performance, performed to his heart's content. The priest Bai Yun standing on the branch drew out his long sword, jumped and slashed at the forest mask Bai Yun below, released the air pressure technique with his feet, and rushed over quickly with the branches shattered. Enel was ready to watch the show. And just as the priest Bai Yun approached, he put away his long sword and instead stretched out his feet together. The forest mask Bai Yun cooperated tacitly, lying down and rotating his body in the air, stretching out his feet to catch the priest Bai Yun's feet, and the 2 pairs of feet touched each other, and the air pressure technique broke out. Under the 2 impacts, the priest Bai Yun flew towards Enel with a bang, at a very fast speed, and even the sound of breaking through the air could be heard. Then the whole person disappeared in an instant. Mantis and the others were all surprised. Enel, who only had the observation haki that could cover the whole country, caught it, and the priest Bai Yun turned into a bullet, and immediately turned into lightning and flashed to the right. This whole process took only 1 second. Mantis and the others didn't see anything, they only saw that the figures of Priest Bayun and Enel disappeared. The next second, Priest Bayun and Enel appeared again. Priest Bayun turned back from a bullet, rolled to stand firm, and looked in the direction of Enel. Thunder and lightning turned into Enel's appearance, and the 2 Bayans looked over at the first time. Mantis and the others were a beat slower. It seemed that Enel seemed to be fine. However, the next second, Enel opened a cut on his left waist. And blood oozed out. At the speed of the double air pressure technique, Enel didn't completely dodge it, and was grazed by the bullet of Priest Bayun. And the scratch of the bullet was like being cut by a knife. Looking at the blood on Enel's waist, Mantis and the others were surprised and never closed their mouths. God, injured. Chapter 312 Purely to disgust you. God, injured. When Mantis and the others saw the blood oozing from Enelo's waist, they were surprised, and at the same time, they felt something called hope in their hearts. Gods can get injured as long as they get injured and have health bars, they can win. Enelo was more silent. He hadn't been injured for too long. The battle with Gonfer was more like a crushing defeat. The fighting force that could threaten him on Sky Island had not yet appeared, so he was really like a god, arrogant and looking down on everything. Now that his waist was injured, he didn't know what he was thinking. But Bai Yun knew that it was the calm before the storm. How about it, great god? How about our move 9 Heaven's Thunder Double Kick 2-player cooperation light speed version? Although he knew that he couldn't beat him after the next 15 minutes, it didn't stop Bai Yun from mocking him. After all, it was a fact that Enelo was injured. And this move 9 Sky Thunder Double Foot Kick, Double Cooperation Light Speed version does not use the air pressure technique together at the moment when the solace of the 2 feet touch each other, so the speed of the collision of the 2 forces is not much faster. Instead, the auxiliary one uses the air pressure technique first, and the attacking one then superimposes this force with another air pressure technique. The superposition of the 2 forces brings the speed to the extreme. This requires 2 people to be very tacit, and no one can be slow. However, 2 Bai Yuns are 1 Bai Yun. How can they not be tacit when they think the same? Yeah ha 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 ha, yeah ha 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 ha. Good. Very good. This is fun. God is too lonely. It's been a long time since I had such fun. I hope you know, you can let me have fun. Enelo laughed with his head raised, not caring about the wound on his waist, and not thinking that he would lose. Oh my, are you expelling me like this? Great God! Priest Bai Yun replied, still with an indifferent tone and a smile on his face. Humph! 15 minutes. Are you 1 person or 2 people? Enel's answer made Mantis and the others confused again. If they can't count, it's obvious that there are 2. Don't you have the answer? We'll know in 15 minutes. The Forest Mask Bai Yun replied. Hey, be honest, there are only 10 minutes left. Then, respected God, within these 10 minutes, if the survival battle has been decided, and there are more than 5 people left, someone will be slapped in the face. We can die, it doesn't matter, it's just to disgust you. It's 1 person. But the priest mask makes Enel feel even more disgusted. He doesn't like this tone. Lightning flashed. It has been said that Enel is very confident. He doesn't care about Bai Yun's provocation, but this doesn't prevent him from showing off his power. Can you hold on for 10 minutes? After speaking, Enel's lightning incarnation took the initiative to attack. Mantis and the others also tightened their weapons, trying to find a chance to help Bai Yun. But they couldn't even see the 2 of them clearly. When Bai Yun was holding Enel, the survival battle in the forest was still going on. It was almost over on the priest's side, with Bai Yun's undercover mission over, only was left. Everyone was heading towards the huge vine. However, Walpa and the others wanted to kill Enel, while Zoro and the others wanted gold. Let's go together. Chopper had reached the middle of the vine, which was Ohm's iron trial, and he was defeated here. As a professional, Miss Robin discovered that the real Shandora ruins were not in the sky, but buried under the clouds, and only she reached the ruins correctly. Luffy was still sealed in the belly of the Lord of the Sky. The Lord of the Sky happened to come to the edge of the island again and encountered the Mary with the help of Luffy. He beat around in his stomach, causing the Lord of the Sky to scream in pain, and Nami was so scared that she rode the Viper and the little girl Shandia, who had been repaired by Pegaya, back to the forest. Chapter 313 The final battle of survival begins. The battle between Bai Yun and Enel was fierce. The forest mask Bai Yun had the rubber fruit buff to take the initiative to attack and resist injuries, and the priest Bai Yun was responsible for roundabout auxiliary attacks. In addition, the 2 Bai Yuns also had observation haki, and the armed haki that Enel did not have, so Enel could not do anything with the two Bions for a while. Mantis and the others wanted to help, but they could not even see their figures clearly. Enel discharged a 1 million volt discharge, and the current spread out a large circle along the cloud, and the divine soldiers and Shandia in the circle fell down. In addition to him and the two Bions, there was also Mantis, who was stronger than the divine soldiers, who jumped up with the burning sword in his hand and narrowly avoided it. When Bayun and Enlil were fighting, the survival battle slowly began to move towards the moment of the decisive battle. As for the priests, had been guarding the decisive battle site early in the morning. Chopper arrived first and was defeated. Robin discovered the real Shandora ruins buried under the clouds. Currently, only the three of them have reached the decisive battle site. But they will not be the only three. Wappa followed the vines alone to the iron trial field. While talking to Gonfer also appeared. He rode Pierre directly to the shrine. But Enel could not find it. The shrine and the servants were burned black by electricity. Don't think that the three parties can talk peacefully. Wappa's idea is to drive all people except the Shandians out of this forest and this land, so he is also hostile to Gonfer. The words are not finished yet. Zoro originally returned directly to the starting point, and in order to protect his lunchbox, he was pulled up by the huge south-facing bird. "Hey, put me down, you stupid bird!" "Huh, what's that?" Hearing the sound of "at," Zoro looked down and saw a big mouth with fangs biting at him. Because, by chance, the Lord of the Sky turned back after scaring Nami and the others into the forest. Luffy punched him again, which made him crazy. He didn't care about anything and just wanted to bite something, so he opened his big mouth and bit Zoro and Xiongnan bird in the sky. "Wow! Big snake! Hey, fly higher, you will be eaten!" At the moment of the snake's mouth, Zoro chose to hit himself in the face just as he wanted Xiongnan bird to put him down. He wanted it to fly higher now. And Xiongnan bird was so smart it thought that the big snake was also going to eat the lunchbox, so it threw Zoro and the lunchbox down together. The big snake's attention was attracted by Zoro, and it would be safe. Do it when you think of it. Zoro was thrown down directly, and his face became a shark's. "You bastard!" But fortunately, Zoro was in the middle of the vines, the iron trial field, and he fell on an abandoned house with a thud, right next to Wappa. Is it the Straw Hat's accomplice? Wappa was originally asking Gonfer about the fact that Enel was not in the shrine, but Zoro's sudden move diverted his attention. "Ah, it's safe. I will never forgive that stinky bird." "Is it you?" Gonfer asked. Zoro looked up. Where is this? Is this the ruins?" Still silent and no one answered. Gonfer didn't know what the ruins were and what gold was, and the other two didn't bother to pay attention to Zoro. The four of them had different goals. If there was anything in common, Gonfer and Wappa wanted to find Enel. No one answered, and Zoro was not embarrassed. Holding the hilt of the knife, he looked at the bald priest. He still remembered what Bai Yun said. "Ah, this man looks fierce." Hand over the gold. Facing Zoro's provocation, pushed his glasses. "Haha, it's so pathetic. None of you can escape my iron trial." Wappa held a cigarette in his mouth. "If you dare to hinder me, I will have to destroy you." Gonfer's purpose remained consistent, looking at "Where is Enel? Where is the god team?" The Lord of the Sky was also in pain and crawled here along the vines under Luffy's control. The five-party chaos gathered. "Okay, everyone seems to have a lot to say. If you insist on your own opinions, then wait until you survive," said. The march to the final battle of survival begins. Ahem. Sure enough, if the clone can defeat you, I will be proud. 11 minutes and 30 seconds. Bai Yun lost, and was lifted up by Enelo by the neck of fate. It was the forest mask Bai Yun. But the priest Bai Yun leaned against the tree trunk, and was also charred by electricity, with white smoke all over his body. "Doppelganger, this is your ability." In the first 10 minutes, Bai Yun threatened him unprecedentedly, and was able to hit his invisible armor. He also had the ability of the heart net, although it was very poor, mainly because he was not afraid of lightning. If it were not for the lack of high burst attacks, Enlil would be uncomfortable, but after being hit by Bai Yun, his mouth was also bloody. The wound on his waist that was scratched by the bullet had stopped bleeding. Although it didn't look like a big injury, this was the most injury Enlil had suffered since he became a god. At this time, Bai Yun was no longer a threat. Like a lamb to be slaughtered, Enlil's face returned to the god expression that looked down on everyone, with a contemptuous arc at the corner of his mouth. No. As soon as Bai Yun said no, Mantis rushed forward with the mighty power under his feet, and the flaming sword in his hand, as long as a gun, directly pierced through Enlil's head. It's a pity that it was useless without sea stone and armed color. You can pierce it as you like in elementalization. Stupid move. I admire your courage, even though it's just a head and nothing else can be done. This is what Enlil and Bai Yun said about Mantis's move. Because Bai Yun was armed with color, Mantis mistakenly thought that Enlil could hit him, and now it was a waste. 1,000,000 volts, discharge. Ah! The electric light dissipated, and Mantis fell to the ground. Bai Yun still had consciousness. Okay, it's not that I can't do anything, thank you for making me bear another electric shock. Even if his consciousness began to blur, Bai Yun still couldn't stop talking nonsense. No what? Enlil put more force on his hand. He was very curious about Bai Yun's words that started with no. No, clones are just one of my abilities. I didn't lie to you at the beginning. I can replicate other people's abilities in 15 minutes. This is my ability. You are now back to the god who looks down on everything and despises everything, because I, who am not afraid of thunder, will be solved in a moment. But think about it carefully. If there is no one who is not afraid of thunder, where can I replicate? Chapter 314 Poison. During the time when Bai Yun and Enlil were dealing with each other, the battle on the ruins was also in full swing. Om beats everyone, Wappa beats everyone, Gonfer beats Om, Zoro beats Om, and the Lord of the Sky is in pain and attacks indiscriminately. At present, Gonfer and Wappa are fighting, and Wappa occasionally shoots the Lord of the Sky. Zoro saw Chopper, who was injured and fainted if he didn't cut Om. He might not change his target. Oh, and there is also Om's dog who can only fight. So pitiful. Do you want to avenge him? Zoro held Chopper, and Om didn't forget to say something mean, really worried that the buff was not enough. No, I don't want to fight for this kind of thing. Zoro was calm and put Chopper steadily on the ground. Oh, great! Om just said that. He looked up to Zoro, and then met Zoro's murderous eyes. It's just I got a little angry. Om didn't care, hee, it's still pathetic. Back to the forest, Bai Yun and Enlil's battlefield. But think about it carefully, if there is no ability user who is not afraid of thunder, where can I go to replicate? Bai Yun's words made Enlil's disdainful eyes more fearful. Who is it? Enlil asked. Bai Yun forced a smile. You know I won't tell, dear God, anyway, you will know sooner or later. Enlil's expression became cold, and he didn't want to talk nonsense, and lightning flashed in his hand. 10,000,000 volts. Wait. I haven't finished yet. Bai Yun interrupted the spell directly. For some reason, Enlil actually listened. Respected God, you have always laughed at the ignorance of the sky dwellers, and laughed at them for not knowing even gold, which is a priceless thing. But what about you? You are not omniscient, just like you don't know why I am not afraid of lightning. Then, do you know about poison? Bai Yun immediately raised his hands and held Enlil's arms. The priest Bai Yun also stepped over and hugged Enlil from behind. Artis explosion. The two Bai Yuns spoke at the same time, overlapping so that it seemed that only one voice was heard. Then they saw two people falling to the ground like mirrors, full of cracks, and light emanating from the cracks. The next second, with a bang, the two exploded directly, and a purple smoke burst out. In the smoke, a lightning bolt flew out and landed on a branch of a tree and turned into Enlil. Cough, cough, cough. Enlil coughed twice, choked by the fog. and then felt his body become cold although there were no other symptoms. This was already very wrong. Poison. Antidote. Those other Qinghai people should have it. Mumbling to himself, Enel turned into a lightning bolt and headed towards the ruins. It seems that he knew about poison, but he should only know its existence on the way to the ruins. He dealt with all the divine soldiers and Shandia people, but his body did not stop. And Bai Yun can use poison because he copied the poison technique of Poison Q. However, when he came to the Sky Island, there was no plant that could make poison. The God's Island grew wildly under the influence of the island cloud, but it lost its toxicity. There were still a few kinds of surviving, but they could not kill people at all. At most, they could only make people feel cold all over. Sunbathe in the sun, and they will be fine in a few days. The poison Bai Yun mentioned was made from these plants. But it was obvious that Enel didn't know that the poison was just like that. Bai Yun told Enel just to disgust him before the end of the scene. Above the sea, on the merchant ship, Bai Yun's real body opened his eyes. "Sir, the Navy G8 fortress is ahead," the owner of the merchant ship just said. Bai Yun's first was naturally from the merchant ship owner OCAS, and the second was because he found something strange. Chapter 315. I hope you will become a dragon. Both clones exploded. In theory, Bai Yun should be able to see back after he cuts off the connection with consciousness and opens his eyes. When Bai Yun on the merchant ship opened his eyes, he did not see the Navy G8 fortress that OCAS said, but saw a thermal imaging scene. It was vaguely clear that it was a forest, and there were many people lying on the ground. Just when Bai Yun was puzzled, he heard two sounds. Hiss. Hiss. This is Xiaobai's body. Bai Yun exclaimed. Xiaobai had been on the mast of the Mary just now. And judging from the scene, he should have run out. Bai Yun exclaimed that his consciousness could actually get on Xiaobai's body. He started to connect his consciousness with the clone, but he only got the clone's vision. And now, Bai Yun felt like he was controlling Xiaobai's body, and he could control his tongue and tail. Xiaobai. Bai Yun tried to call out, and the sound came from Xiaobai's snake mouth. Wow! Good fellow, is this place Xiaobai? What about Xiaobai's consciousness? Is he asleep? Bai Yong thought while stroking his chin with his snake tail. After thinking for a while, he tried to disconnect his consciousness. His vision changed instantly. An island appeared in front of him, but the island was surrounded. The Navy logo was painted on the gate in front. What's wrong, Sir Okas asked. Bai Yun smiled back. Nothing, thank you for sending me here, old Okas. You're welcome. I didn't suffer too much loss. All the way here thanks to your protection, Okas replied. Are you leaving? Omir, who hated Bai Yun at first, was a little reluctant to let him go now that he knew Bai Yun was leaving because he knew Bai Yun's strength. He also wanted to become as powerful as Bai Yun, so he begged Bai Yun to teach him. Bai Yun told him the daily exercise method of a bald-caped man, and Omir was not just talking. Although it was only one day, he did it on that day. Bai Yun bent down and touched his head. There is always a separation, we will meet again if we are destined. As long as you work hard, you will become very strong, kid. Omir clenched his fists and nodded. I will work hard, I will work hard to become as strong as you, big brother. Although Bai Yun called him kid, Omir was only 2.5 years younger than him. Ha ha ha, I believe you, so goodbye everyone. After saying that, Bai Yun flew into the air, flying higher and higher until Omir and the others could no longer see him. At high altitude, Bai Yun released the air pressure technique. And the whole person quickly descended and landed in the forest inside the G8 fortress. When he was about to touch the ground again, he used the air pressure technique under his feet again. The burst of impact and the inertia of falling counteracted, and Bai Yun stood firmly on the ground directly. Then he sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and tried to connect with Xiaobai's consciousness again. In the forest of the God's Island, a little white snake spoke. Really? Xiaobai, what on earth are you? Xiaobai. Well, I mean, you must be extraordinary. Your master, I just hope you can become a dragon and take me flying. Bai Yun muttered, adapting to the field of vision that was the same as thermal imaging. But thanks to you, I can continue my role on the Sky Island. Who? Hearing the noise, the little snake Bai Yun turned around and looked. The only female in the main force of the Shandayans, Luffy, emerged from the tree. Hey! Luffy looked at the little snake in confusion. Did it speak just now? But after seeing the mantis lying on the ground, her thoughts were thrown away, and Luffy immediately walked over. Mantis! It's useless, he fainted completely. Bai Yun said. Luffy jumped back and immediately raised the gun in her hand. You really can talk. What are you? You are the thing, can't you see I am a snake? Of course, you can also call me Master Bai. Bai Yun replied, calling himself Master. Master Bai? No, why can snakes talk? Raki shook her head, thinking that she must have hallucinated. Why can't snakes talk? I'm not saying that. Bai Yun replied, his tone was very righteous. Chapter 316 Whitethorn Death Game. The explosion of the clone gave Enel a layer of body cold buff, which was purely bluffing and did no harm. Bai Yun, who thought that the Sky Island drama was over, planned to muddle around in the Navy G8 fortress first. But suddenly found that his consciousness could go to Ziobai. I didn't expect to continue the drama in this special way. Who said snakes can't talk? Bai Yun replied to Luffy, as if it was natural for snakes to talk. You haven't been to Qinghai, have you? All the snakes in Qinghai are like this. Another trick, bullying people who haven't been to Qinghai. Luffy nodded doubtfully. What are you going to do then? Mantis and the others are. They were attacked by Enel. If it weren't for my handsome long-haired master who fought with Enel, they might have been hurt more severely, lightly. Bai Yun replied, and shamelessly praised himself. At this time, Mantis woke up and struggled to speak, and Bai Yang gave him a beating with his tail. Pa! Mantis! Luffy screamed in shock. Bai Yun explained. He is too badly injured to speak. I know what he is going to say. Enelus is thunder. And he has eaten the natural thunder fruit. He cannot be attacked without special means. He wants you to remind Wappa. But you should know that if you go, you may also be attacked by Enelus. Bai Yun's words made Luffy take back the words in her mouth and the hand that was about to draw the gun, and then stood up resolutely. I want to go. The warriors of Shandia will never retreat. The lamp of Shandora will definitely be lit again. After saying that, Luffy glanced at Mantis and was about to leave. Bai Yun jumped onto her shoulder. That's perfect, take me with you. My Lord Bai is not in vain. Luffy did not answer. Snakes can talk, maybe they are really powerful. That may be helpful for fighting Enelus, and it will be worth it to take them with you. Forest Survival War. At the beginning, there were three forces. There are two parties, Luffy and his people and the Shandayans, whose goals are the same, arrived at the giant vine. However, Luffy and his team's goal is the gold in the ruins under the vine, while the Shandians' goal is Enelu in the shrine above the vine. The mission of the priests and the divine soldiers is just the opposite, which is to prevent them from reaching the shrine. With the arrival of Nami and Aisha for unknown reasons, and the arrival of the surviving Shandayan warriors and divine soldiers, the decisive battle march ended and entered the concerto. I didn't expect that even the Lord of the Sky is here. We are here to help you, Lord Om. Met. The remaining 5 divine soldiers arrived. At the same time, there are the remaining 3 Shandayan warriors. It seems only we are left. We will help you get to Enelu, Wappa. As soon as the two sides finished talking, Luffy was about to dig a hole in the belly of the Lord of the Sky to leave. This was like tickling the Lord of the Sky. What's wrong with this big snake? The confused people asked in confusion. Hee hee. Laughing. A huge monster laughing in front of you is not a funny thing. Suddenly, Nami and Aisha also caught up. and the two divine soldiers rushed over. Wow! Zoro, Nami, Wappa, Isa. Gone for, little girl. The three of them went over in an instant and hit the two divine soldiers. Nami and Aisha escaped. Nami, why are you here? Zoro asked. Isa, what are you doing here? Wappa asked at the same time. Zoro, where are the others? Nami is in a mess now, didn't you set out together? Wappa. Isa also responded to Wappa. Who knew that Wappa directly raised the burning cannon in his hand? Qinghai people, what on earth do you want to do? Isa, get away from that guy quickly. After saying that, without waiting for Aisha to leave, he fired a cannon directly. Gonfer rode on Pierre and lifted Nami and the others together with Viva, thus avoiding being hit. Devil Wappa is a devil. Aisha cried and shouted, are you trying to save me? Are you afraid that I will walk too slowly? I'm saved. Nami breathed a sigh of relief. Why did you come here? Gonfer asked. Because there is a big. Nami replied, but halfway through the answer, the shadow covered them, and the huge snake swallowed them in one bite. Snake ah 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 ah. Only Nami's shouting was left, and then it slowly became inaudible. That idiot! Aisha. Zoro and Wappa were shocked. OM and his dog took the opportunity to attack. You can't save yourselves, and you are still worried about others. A bunch of idiots, no one can save anyone anyway. Zoro and Wappa fell to the ground under the sneak attack of OM and the dog. Dare to give Wappa to. The Shandian warriors immediately raised their weapons. But OM didn't need to do anything himself, the divine soldiers attacked. There are 4 divine soldiers in this site. The 2 are still alive, the divine soldiers who chased Nami and Aisha and were beaten away by Zoro and his 3 men. There are 4 Shandians, a Qinghai man, a snake, and Holly, the name of the dog. A total of 10 people plus 2 animals. It's really great, use that trick, Holly. OM said. Holly responded immediately and ran around in a circle, constantly triggering the iron thorn mechanism under his feet. After a circle, Holly stopped, and a circle of white iron thorns grew up, combining into a semicircle to cover the people inside, which can be understood as a small and weakened Minga birdcage. That's right, this is the true meaning of the Iron Trial. White Thorn Death Game. A divine soldier explained excitedly. Zoro slowly stood up, even if I don't do this, I won't run away. Wappa stood up and kicked a divine weapon onto the thorns. That is to say, once it touches, it will be difficult to deal with. After I get rid of everyone, how can I get out? Zoro said this very calmly, as if it was a matter of course. OM was also angry, and echoed, then wait until you get rid of everyone. There are 8 people and 2 animals left. One of the Shandia warriors was killed by Holly. And just now Wappa sent a divine weapon to have close contact with the thorns. The transition serenade of the decisive battle concerto begins. Chapter 317. He is not worthy of this saint. The forest survival battle has come to this point. There are only 8 people and 2 animals who came to the ruins. The transition serenade of the decisive battle concerto. Just when Zoro, Wappa, and OM were on the verge of a fight, a voice broke the atmosphere. Wappa. It was Luffy who arrived, of course, and the plate on her shoulder carrying Bai Yun's consciousness. Bai Yun, who just said that his title of Master Bai was not in vain, immediately jumped off Luffy's shoulder and ran away. Luffy couldn't care less for the time being. She had to tell Wappa about Enel's eating the thunder fruit. Listen to me, Wappa. Enel is in the forest. Mantis and the long-haired Qinghai man were defeated by him. The little white snake told me that Enel. When Luffy said this, Zoro automatically thought of Bai Yun when he heard that the long-haired Qinghai man was defeated, and his eyebrows frowned slightly. At this time, a little white snake used its tiny body to drill into the thorn ball net and went towards Zoro's steering wheel. On the other hand, Wappa grabbed the thorn net and shouted excitedly before Luffy finished speaking. "Hey Luffy, don't come over, leave quickly." Luffy was puzzled. "Ah Wappa, what are you talking about? Stop it." Wappa's answer seemed irrelevant, because he was not talking to Luffy. Just when Luffy was even more puzzled, a voice came from behind, with a cold tone and a teasing tone. "Are you calling me?" Luffy turned around immediately, and Enelu with a death smile suddenly appeared in front of her. "Stop Enelu, she has given up the fight," Wappa shouted. Anxious to the point of holding the thorns tightly and bleeding without caring. A magic soldier attacked from behind. "Stupid, don't think you can survive by caring about others." But Wappa didn't care about this magic soldier at all. "Don't do it Luffy." But it was too late. Luffy raised her spear and fired 2 shots at Enelu. It was useless at such a close distance, and the bullets went straight through. At this time, what echoed in Luffy's mind was what the white snake Bai Yun said, "Enel is thunder, and you can't hit him without special means." Bai Yun, who was heading towards Zoro's steering wheel, also stopped and turned his head to look, but after only a few seconds, he turned his head back. He can't be saved, and he is in such a state now that he can't be called a saint. Take it Wappa. At this time, the divine weapon behind him hit Wappa's back, and blood splashed, but Wappa was terribly calm. This time he knew that it was useless to shout. Luffy also turned her head with a hoarse voice, "Wappa." Enel is. After she finished speaking, Enel's lightning covered her, and after the lightning dissipated, she fell to the ground and couldn't get up again. After one move, Wappa didn't respond, and the divine weapon continued to attack. Wappa didn't even turn his head back, but just reached back and grabbed the divine weapon's head, pressing his face hard and making close contact with the thorns. "Ah!" The divine weapon screamed in pain, and even more painful, no one cared about him. The warriors of Shandora are really naive. As long as they come to challenge, whether they are men or women, I will not refuse. At most, I will spare her life. Enelu said with a playful smile, but it was hard for the divine weapon. The more he said, the harder Wappa pressed on the divine weapon's head to vent his anger. "Enelu." Enelu ignored Wappa's eyes that seemed to want to swallow him, but looked at Zoro. "Green-headed Qinghai man, do you have an antidote?" Meeting Enelu's eyes, Zoro was puzzled. "Antidote? What antidote?" And Enelu looked at Zoro's expression and knew that he didn't have it. Without waiting for Zoro to answer, he turned into lightning and disappeared. "That guy is God. What antidote? What does it mean?" Enelu left, and the thorn net became tense again. Zoro and Wappa's target temporarily changed to the Lord of the Sky. They had to rescue Nami and Aisha. "Big Snake, I'm going to peel open your stomach first." Chapter 318. Sleep peacefully this way. The arrival of Enel stopped the serenade temporarily, and now it continues. In order to rescue Nami and Aisha, Zoro and Wappa chose to attack the Lord of the Sky first. The Lord of the Sky now drooped his face, thinking that he was about to be tortured to death by the Lu monkey in his stomach. And may think that it is better to deal with Zoro and Wappa first than the Lord of the Sky. He intercepted them. "Attack Holly." The big dog received the order, and his body swiftly turned behind Zoro and the others and punched them. The ground cracked, and Zoro and Wappa dodged to both sides. Waved the weapon in his hand that turned into an iron whip to attack Zoro, and Zoro blocked it with a horizontal sword. When Wappa jumped up, a divine soldier tried to sneak attack, but Wappa grabbed his head and spun him to the ground. There are 6 people and 3 animals left. 3 animals. Little Snake. Reported the number of people in real time like a referee. Suddenly found that there was one more animal. It was the white snake Bai Yun. Ziobai. Zoro naturally recognized Ziobai, but he didn't know that the body of the little white snake was now filled with Bai Yun's consciousness. "Call me Master Bai." Bai Yun replied. The 3 were shocked by the voice. The snake could talk, and Zoro recognized the voice. "Bai Yun. It's me. I said I would chase you. We'll talk about the situation later. Leave the big snake to me." Bai Yun replied confidently, even though his figure was just sand and boulders compared to the Lord of the Sky. But Zoro believed him very much. Okay. Then I can cut this bastard with confidence. The sunglasses on Ohm's face flashed. How shameless, what can a small snake do? Holly, slap it to death. The big dog Holly got the order and ran over facing the ferocious big dog running over. Bai Yun remained calm, his forked tongue kept spitting out and retracting, making a hissing sound. When Holly approached and raised his hand to slap, Bai Yun's snake eyes flashed red. Lie down. The ferocious Holly immediately became obedient and lay down. Ohm knew that Holly would listen to anyone's orders, but if he was present, his orders would be more useful. Get up, Holly. But he didn't expect that after he shouted the order, Holly didn't listen and was still lying down. There was more wonder in Ohm's eyes under the sunglasses. He was confident in his ability to tame animals, at least better than the guy with the same hair and hat who worked under the red nose. But after a closer look, he found that Holly's body was shaking again. Holly! You! Before Ohm could finish his words, Zoro slashed at him with his two swords, and Ohm could only block with his swords. Are you done? Don't think you're done. Your dog is awesome, and that snake is as evil as its owner. Bai Yun, I'll take that as a compliment. Ohm's face darkened. Don't think you can do anything without Holly, you can just hold on a little longer and keep busy with me for a little longer. How pathetic. Ohm shook Zoro back with force, and at the same time, the iron cloud in his hand turned into a whip and hit him again. An inch longer, an inch stronger, Zoro could only fight and retreat. Here. Wappa and the Lord of the Sky fought. Although the Lord of the Sky was big, he would be a living target if he was not flexible. And Bai Yun knew that he had to stare at him to deter him, but it was easy to solve the problem at hand. Good dog, the best. Knock yourself out, remember to use force, so you can sleep peacefully. Xiao Bai's snake head was obviously smiling, and he was whispering. But his words and tone were totally different. Holly would always obey anyone's orders. Now with Xiao Bai's domineering aura towards animals, he dared not disobey, and with a bang, he knocked himself out, and the big bulge was still smoking. Well, good dog. Bai Yun said with a smile, then turned and looked in the direction of Wappa and the Lord of the Sky, thinking, let's get Luffy out first. Chapter 319, Curse Enough. With the arrival of the white snake Bai Yun, under the Hoang Haki for animals, Ohm's dog Holly gave himself a physical sleep. Now there are 6 people and 2 animals left. It seems, it doesn't matter. Swallowed by the Lord of the Sky, Nami, Aisha, Gonfer, and Pierre also came to its stomach. Luffy's clothes have become tattered, like a homeless man seeing Nami and Gonfer, it's like seeing relatives, and he can't help crying. Nami, weird old man, what are you doing in this strange cave? Nami wanted to ask Luffy why he was here. But she still told Luffy that they were eaten by the big snake of the Lord of the Sky. Really, that's really terrible, you were eaten by a snake. The words sounded emotional, but Luffy's expression was calm. If Bai Yun was here, he would probably add, guess why we met? You too, we are all in the snake's belly. Nami was so angry that she stretched Luffy's nose. Can you be any more slow? Gonfer is still sighing that Luffy is actually the captain. Ah, so this strange hole is the snake's stomach. Luffy's brain finally understood. Yes, didn't you see that your clothes were melted? Nami pointed at Luffy's clothes and said. Luffy looked down at his clothes, and it was indeed. Wow, really? Then let's find the snake's asshole quickly. Nami gave him a knife. Are you going to get out from there? If I have to get out from there, I would rather be digested by it. Gonfer and Aisha both sighed at Nami's appearance. It was so scary. Sighing, Nami calmed herself down. Anyway, this snake is always in a bad mood and swallows us. We have to hurry up while it's going crazy. At this point, Nami, Aisha, and Gonfer suddenly realized something. Could it be? You have been making a scene here just now? Nami asked with anger on the back of her head. Luffy didn't notice at all. Ah, I wanted to dig a hole to get out before. I'm so hungry, do you have anything to eat? There is no food, can you eat the fist as big as a sandbag? Luffy looked at Nami's body full of low pressure, puzzled, what's wrong with you? Nami was too lazy to explain, damn it. You big idiot. Just when Nami was deliberately punching Luffy, the Lord of the Sky outside was hurt by the explosion of Walpa, and screamed to the sky. And Nami and the others fell deeper. Outside world. The Lord of the Sky screamed to the sky. He looked down and glared at Walpa with tears in his eyes. Walpa was about to speak. Bai Yun came over. You idiot, don't stop. Bai Yun said this to Walpa. He didn't know if saying dirty words with Xiaobai's body would have any effect on him, but he didn't care about that. He must curse to his heart's content today. As for Walpa, it's hard to say anything because of their different positions, but Bai Yun just hates him. He is arrogant and reckless. The title of War Ghost is appropriate. His personality is like a ghost. Bai Yun hissed at the Lord of the Sky. That was their snake language, meaning to let the Lord of the Sky wait a moment. The stomach was temporarily calm. The Lord of the Sky was very curious about this little snake of the same kind. Why? The more he looked at it, the more beautiful it was. You idiot! You only know how to fight. You have no brains. Beep 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 beep. Bai Yun turned into a telegraph snake. His mouth like a machine gun, scolding Walpa, as if he wanted to scold back all the insults he had received since he went to sea. It was not aimed at Walpa. Whoever came now, Bai Yun would scold him. Walpa was not deaf, he could hear that Bai Yun was scolding him, just like Bai Yun scolded him. He knew to fight, and directly raised the incendiary cannon in his hand, but he was punished by Bai Yun's words before he pressed the trigger. Idiot! Do you still want to save Aisha? Your cannon can't even take off a layer of skin from her belly. Hit me, right, hit me as you like, and then slowly grind this big snake. I'm afraid that when the little girl comes out, only a skeleton will be left. Chapter 32 Chapter 0 I Never Believe in God. After Bai Yun solved Holly, he interrupted the battle between Walpa and the Lord of the Sky. He cursed at Walpa. But his curses were also serious. It must be said that although Wapa's mind was full of fighting most of the time, he still cared about his people very much. Now he was scolded by Bai Yun, but he could hear that Bai Yun had a way to save Aisha and the others, so he didn't care. Do you have a way? When he asked this question, it was obvious that he didn't see the scene of Bai Yun controlling Holly just now. No. How is it possible? Bai Yun took a deep breath, and Walpa almost pulled the trigger. Bai Yun turned around and looked at the Lord of the Sky. His eyes did not show red light. If it could be solved in a civilized way, that would be the best. We are all civilized people, Bai Yun hissed twice, and the Lord of the Sky lay down and opened his mouth. Bai Yun gave Walpa a proud expression. Walpa still had no expression on his face. What are you still standing there for? Go in and find them. Forget it, you don't dare. If you go in and fight again, the snake will be tortured to death by you. I'll go in, you watch. After saying that, Bai Yun coiled into the mouth of the Lord of the Sky without waiting for Walpa to reply. And the Lord of the Sky still kept his mouth wide open. Walpa was silent. He turned around and knocked out the sneak-attacking divine soldier with a cannon. This was the last one. After the fight, Walpa sat down cross-legged, lit a cigarette and waited. Walpa dealt with the last divine soldier, plus the two Shandia warriors who came out to attack when Zoro and Om were fighting but were dealt with by Om. Now there are only 3 people and 2 animals. There is a wall between Om and Zoro, and both sides know that the other side is on the other side of the wall. But soon, there will only be 2 people and 2 animals left. Om raised the iron cloud sword in his hand and pointed it at the wall, saying confidently, Tai-Yun can change at will, with swords, whips, forks, escapes, and fans, and they are made of iron. This makes Zoro complain that it is just a weakened version of Bai Yun's bracelet. Tai-Yun's characteristics, plus Ohm's observation haki, made Zoro helpless for a while. And he could only retreat and fight now the two of them are in a confrontation with a wall between them. Facing Ohm's words, Zoro tied a black headscarf with the bonus of artifact, he will not hide anymore. You seem to be an important member of Qinghai people. Your companions are doing well. I have aimed at your heart. Pray to God, swordsman of Qinghai. Facing Ohm's words, Zoro just felt funny. Fool. I will never pray to God in my life. I never believe in God. Like a long-haired bastard said, this is all feudal superstition. Obviously, the long-haired bastard that Zoro was talking about was Bai Yun, but Bai Yun's this is all feudal superstition was followed by not the god of wealth. How pitiful, whatever you want. Faced with Zoro's words that were very contrary to his cognition, Ohm just felt that he was pathetic. Zoro did not answer, biting the handle of the third knife and moving directly. Although I can't see you, this knife will tell me your location. The moment I find you. It's your death date. 36 troubles in one life. 72 troubles in 2 lives. 108 troubles in 3 lives. 3 swords flow, 108 troubles wind. Zoro and Ohm attacked at the same time. Zoro opened the big move, and Ohm was still there with the iron whip. The 2 attacks smashed the wall at the same time, and the 2 figures appeared in each other's sight, and at the same time, the attacks collided. However, Ohm's iron whip was instantly deflected by Zoro's 3 slashing waves blue slashes. All 3 spiral slashes slashed Ohm's chest, and blood splattered. Chapter 321 The Son of Orokai. Thank you for your gift. In a small town far away from Sky Island, Ace's adventure was also going on. Of course, there was also his partner, Bai Yun. The good character of childhood has been preserved until now. Really persistent, ha ha ha. The chef and the boss behind him kept chasing. But Ace found it funny. It must be because you eat too much. Bai Yun complained. Ace reached out and pressed the hat on his head while running. No way, I don't even eat half of Luffy's appetite. That's a lot. After speaking, Bai Yun motioned Ace to turn into the alley. Ace did as he was told and replied at the same time, that's right, ha 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 ha. Back to Sky Island. With Ohm defeated by Zoro's 100-8 treble wind, the decisive battle of the ruins has been decided, because the priest and the divine soldiers have fallen. But Enelu will not let his prediction go wrong. Staring at Ohm's fallen figure viciously, Zoro put away the knife in his mouth and pulled off the black headscarf. That big snake is lying down. What else can Bai Yun, this bastard, do? What is Ziobai? Forget it, let's deal with that bastard carrying the rocket launcher first. Zoro muttered to himself, then set a goal, holding 2 swords and ran to the position of Wappa and the Lord of the Sky. Wappa. He sat cross-legged on the ground. Holding the rocket launcher in his arms, staring at the Lord of the Sky with his mouth open. And just as Zoro approached, a strange phenomenon suddenly occurred. The quiet Lord of the Sky opened his eyes instantly, stood up, and roared to the sky. What's wrong? Seeing this scene, Zoro feeling puzzled, but not stopping. Wappa immediately stood up and retreated with the rocket launcher. Tisk. Sure enough, you shouldn't trust a little snake. Wappa's eyebrows slanted down, his expression was unhappy, and he raised the muzzle to aim at the Lord of the Sky, and just before the trigger was pulled, an accident happened again. Lightning spread from the ground, and the blue light illuminated the faces of the 2 people and the snake, all full of surprise. The lightning did not cause any harm to the 3 of them, but the entire site collapsed. The ground cracked. Zoro was surprised. It's Enelu, only he can do it, the site is going to collapse. When the shining lightning appeared, Wappa instantly knew what Enelu did. There is a hole below. When looking down, Wappa found that there was a hole in the original ground, and there seemed to be something else in the hole. But Zoro didn't have time to care about this now, and took advantage of the gravel to step quickly and caught the unconscious Chopper. However, two accidents happened within a few seconds. Let's explain them one by one. Let's first talk about why the Lord of the Sky went crazy again. A few minutes ago, Bai Yun found Luffy and others in the belly of the Lord of the Sky. Take your feet lightly, don't let this big snake go crazy again. 4 people and 1 bird came towards them, Nami reminded them as she walked, and then saw a little white snake appearing on the opposite side. The son of the big snake. Luffy spoke wisely. Nami couldn't help but punch him in the head again. Isn't that Ziobai? Ziobai? You have to call me Bai yet. Nami was walking quickly, but when she heard Ziobai talking, she instantly moved behind Luffy. 2 didn't hear it wrong, Ziobai just said it. You are not wrong, I heard it too. Me too. Gonfer and Aisha echoed. Luffy tilted his head, and Ziobai's voice echoed in his head. Bai Yun, it's Bai Yun's voice. Bai Yun smiled, it's me. After getting the answer, Luffy ran over immediately. Ha ha ha, Bai Yun, how did you become Xiao Bai? The 3 people and the bird followed behind. Yes, Bai Yun, what are you doing? Nami asked. It's a long story, anyway, my consciousness is in Xiao Bai now. Bai Yun replied. Qinghai is really strange, Aisha muttered. Okay, then we. Bai Yun wanted to say, let's leave quickly, but in an instant, the line representing calmness in his mind was broken. Bai Yun didn't know what was going on, he opened his mouth uncontrollably, the snake fangs flashed, and he bit the ground. Chapter 322, The Last Movement. Zoro deals with Om. Wappa looked at the Lord of the Sky. Bai Yun went in to find Luffy and the others, and then brought them out. A perfect arrangement. It should have been like this, but after Zoro solved Om, accidents happened frequently. The first surprise came from Bai Yun. In the stomach of the Sky Lord, Bai Yun successfully joined Luffy and the others, but while talking, he suddenly opened his fangs uncontrollably and bit the ground, that is, the stomach of the Sky Lord. The pain made the Sky Lord stand up and roar again. Luffy and the others only felt that their feet were empty and fell down. What are you doing, Bai Yun? Nami didn't understand why Bai Yun did this. Luffy didn't ask, but grabbed Bai Yun's snake tail when he fell. Even so, Bai Yun was still unwilling to let go of his mouth, and naturally couldn't hold Luffy, and was dragged down by him. His teeth kept scratching the flesh of the Sky Lord. The pain made the Sky Lord outside almost faint. Then at this time, thunder and lightning came from the ground again, and the entire ruins collapsed. This was the second surprise. A few minutes ago, when Zoro dealt with Om, Bai Yun entered the mouth of the Sky Lord at the same time. Enel also came to the underground ruins of Shandora. The ruins covered by the huge vines are also ruins, but only a small part. Together with the ruins buried underground by the clouds, they are the entire ruins of Shandora. In the conversation with Enel, Robin learned that the gold was transported out by him. And the golden bell, Enel didn't know where it was. But it does exist. When the island flew up 400 years ago, at the same time, the bell sounded all over the Sky Island, which was called the Song of the Island. By the way, do you have an antidote? Enel asked this question at the end, and it can be seen that his expression is already very impatient. While Enel asked this question, on the other side of the island, a surviving member of the God team told Konis and his daughter that Enel wanted to destroy the entire Sky Island. And soon after this word came out, Enel's lightning came. In order to protect Konis, Pagia pushed her away, but he and the members of the God team were engulfed by lightning. Even though Konis was extremely sad, she still endured it and rushed back to Angel Island at full speed to tell the residents this terrible fact. Antidote. Are you poisoned? Robin asked back. The guy with long hair among you, the poisonous fog released by his clone's self-explosion made me feel cold all over. Where is his real body? Enel threw away the fruit core in his hand and told Robin everything. When Robin saw the word long hair, she immediately thought of Bai Yun. After all, Bai Yun was the only one with long hair on the ship besides her. She herself was not, so she was naturally Bai Yun, not to mention that the Navy's bounty title for Bai Yun was long hair. I'm sorry, about the two you asked. I don't know that he can use poison. And I don't know where his real body is. Robin also answered truthfully. She had never seen Bai Yun use poison. Yeah ha ha ha, yeah ha 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 ha. I believe he will come out. There are 8 minutes left, so let's solve it here. Facing Robin's answer, Enel did not get angry but laughed. He was confident that Bai Yun's real body would appear, but he didn't know that Bai Yun's real body was now in Qinghai, 10,000 meters below. After saying that, Enel stood up, raised his hand, and his entire right hand turned into lightning and hit the vines. The lightning spread along the vines until it reached the ruins, causing the entire ruins to collapse before dissipating. What are you doing? Robin naturally knew that the vines in the middle were also part of the Shandora ruins. Now that they were shattered by electricity, she naturally felt distressed, but at the same time she also remained rational, guessing in her heart that Enel's move was, if nothing unexpected, a natural fruit ability user facing Robin's question. Enel laughed. Yeah ha ha ha, I'm calling your friends to come to this Shandora. Ha ha ha, let's play the last movement together. Chapter 323 Dwarf. Why are you a cat? Why do you say that? You are reluctant to spit out the fish bone in your mouth, so you are going to chew it, right? Bai Yun and Ace stood on the wall of a house in the town not far behind them. On the roof, the chef of the restaurant was furious. Hee hee, that's true. Ace turned around and spat out the fish bone. He did it unintentionally, and it looked like he was provoking the chef, which made the chef even more angry. You two bastards! Bai Yun and Ace had just started. The battle on Sky Island had already reached its finale. Enel stomped on the entire ruin stuck in the middle of the huge vines. Zoro, Wappa, and the Lord of the Sky, both of them and the snake, fell down. At this time, the Lord of the Sky opened his mouth downwards. Good opportunity. Hurry up and grab my Viva. We are going to rush out. Nami rode on Viva and looked at the glowing hole in front of her and shouted. Luffy put Bai Yun on his right hand, grabbed Aisha, and stretched out his left hand to grab Nami's Viva. Let's go. Wow, I can finally get out. Luffy said excitedly. Aisha looked carefully and her face changed. Wait, you caught the wind mouth. Wow. Wow. As Nami activated the Viper, with a bang, the strong wind from the wind shell blew Luffy and Aisha away. And Bai Yun was still stunned after he couldn't control himself and bit the Lord of the Sky just now, like a snake bracelet. Gonfer turned his head and almost got scared. What? What are they doing? Pierre, you go back and you must rescue them. Gonfer made a prompt decision and jumped off Pierre. He and Nami just got out of the mouth of the Lord of the Sky, and Pierre flapped his wings and turned around to fly back. Then there was a rain of gravel, smoke, and dust, and it became quiet after a few minutes. White. White. This is Bai Yun's only impression of this space. When he couldn't control himself and bit off the stomach of the Lord of the Sky, his consciousness came to this space. There was a white expanse between the sky and the earth, and there was nothing. If you stay there for a long time, you will be blind. Where is this place? Bai Yun walked and looked around. He walked for about a few minutes. Although it was not long, the feeling of the unknown made him very irritable. And at this time, there was finally something in front of him. Or rather, it was not a thing, but a person. A naked man. This person had his back to Bai Yun. It was hard to say whether he was a man or a woman, but the muscles on his arms and his height of more than 2 meters made Bai Yun guess that he was a man. But he saw that his white hair was so long that it almost touched the ground through his hair. He could see that he was a man looking at the silk. It seems that he is naked. Bai Yun stopped and hesitated whether to speak. But the man moved, and it seemed that he was going to turn around. Bai Yun immediately looked around, but there was nothing, so he could only raise his fist and put on a defensive posture. The man slowly turned around. Bai Yun was stunned when he saw his face. He looked a little good, but he didn't recognize him. Moreover, he was indeed naked, but a few strands of hair were tangled together, covering the main parts, and there was no leaves in the rest of the place, and his 8 abdominal muscles were visible. There is no doubt that the man is handsome, except that his scarlet eyes are a bit weird. And the moment he saw Bai Yun, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he stepped over. Bai Yun took 2 deep breaths, calmed his mind, and prepared to wait until the man was in the right place before asking what was going on. But when he was about to speak, the man spoke first. "Shorty, why are you here?" Bai Yun was stunned, looked around, and there was no one else. So who should the dwarf call? "Call me." Chapter 324 Xiao Bai's Identity. Outside world. The Lord of the Sky burst into tears after arriving at the ruins of Shandora, because this is also his hometown after all. It is the ancestor of Wappa and others, because it has lived in Shandora since 400 years ago, before the island was washed up. Enelu didn't care about being moved or not, and stunned the Lord of the Sky with a divine punishment. Then he started the final game with the remaining 5 people, Zoro, Nami, Robin, Gonfer, and Wappa. And he was still waiting for the appearance of Baiun's body. At this time, Luffy was still sealed in the belly of the Lord of the Sky. Bai Yun didn't know where he came to. It was a white space. There was also a naked man over 2 meters tall who called him a dwarf. "Dwarf? Are you calling me?" Bai Yun asked back in disbelief. He was as tall as Luffy. No, he was 1 centimeter taller. "What do you mean by a dwarf? You are so tall." "Who else is there if not you?" "No one else here." The man smiled and replied. "Yes. No one else. Although I don't want to admit it. But, it's obvious that I'm not from the real body. It should be the consciousness, red eyes, and white hair." "Are you Xiao Bai?" Bai Yun said his guess. Apart from this, he couldn't think of any other possibility. "Although I don't like the name Xiao Bai, you are right, it's me." The man in front of him admitted that he was Xiao Bai, the little white snake. Bai Yun showed a disappointed expression. "What are you disappointed about?" Xiao Bai was puzzled. "I always thought you were a female snake. How can I tell the difference between male and female snakes? I'm not surprised that you turned into a human. Even if it's a male snake, it should turn into a cute little boy, you." Xiao Bai's smile froze, and his eyebrows raised. "I'm really disappointed you, little dwarf." "What are you doing?" Xiao Bai said. And Bai Yun came forward and used a finger to hook the white hair that Xiao Bai had coiled around his body. That's why Xiao Bai reacted like this. Bai Yun looked innocent and knowledgeable. "I've always heard about snakes before. There are 2. I'm curious. It seems that you are not a regular snake, I know, so what are you?" "Xiao Bai." Xiao Bai was speechless. "Not only did you invade my privacy, but you also scolded me, right?" "I don't know either." Xiao Bai was not angry. He was present at many things that Bai Yun experienced since he was coiled in Bai Yun's hand, and he always knew that Bai Yun was a bastard, a social terrorist. "I don't know. What are you? You don't know." Bai Yun thought he heard it wrong, but then he reacted. "No way, so dramatic. You lost your memory." "Sure enough," Xiao Bai nodded. "Yet, I really can't remember who I am. From the moment I regained consciousness, I was on that island. And the animals on the island also respected me as their king and respected me very much. I can't remember who I am until you came to the island and took me away, and I still don't know." "No." Bai Yun denied Xiao Bai's words. "You know it's not a solution to stay on the island all the time. So, let me take you away from the island. I now suspect that you took the initiative to find me, and then wanted to use me to take you out to find your identity. Isn't that right?" "Okay." Bai Yun felt that his sincerity was used. The cute Xiao Bai no longer exists. Xiao Bai smiled, and I don't know if it counts as an admission. No matter what. You brought me out, didn't you? Since you brought me out, you have to be responsible for me. Right, Master? Chapter 325. You have a ticket, but I won't go with you. Enelo's final game. One more person must fall. According to his prediction, in the 3 hours since the start of the survival battle, only 5 people will survive. Including him. And now there is obviously one more person on the opposite side: Zoro, Nami, Robin, Gonfer, and Wappa. Enelo wants them to decide who to get rid of. Except for Nami, who hid and hugged Chopper, everyone else's answer was the same: get rid of Enelu. It is obviously impossible to surrender without fighting. Enelu only felt funny about the remarks that asked him to die, because gods will not die. During the conversation, Enel also revealed his goal, which was the infinite land, and now what he had to do was to fulfill his duty as a god and throw the unnatural island of Sky Island from the sky. And Gonfer's former subordinates, the people of the god team, had been abandoned by Enel. Gonfer couldn't believe it and attacked Enel in great grief, but the anger buff didn't give him much bonus. Enel's 20 million volt discharge made him fall down in regret. Now the number of people is just right. Enel said that the remaining people can go to the infinite land with him, that is, the winner of this survival battle can get a ticket. But Robin said, you have a ticket, but I won't go with you. In addition to the question of the current location of the Golden Bell, Enel knew that Robin just wanted to use this as a condition for his dying struggle. So, a flash of lightning knocked Robin down. Zoro, who always said that he had not completely accepted Robin and would always keep an eye on her, was the fastest to jump out and catch Robin's falling body. Sanji would not hit a woman. Zoro would not kill a woman unless he had to, but he would still hit her. Besides, even if Robin had a problem, she was their partner now, and Enel would not be able to hit her. Zoro slashed out instantly, but was blocked by Enel's golden stick. Seeing this, Zoro shouted loudly. Are you giving up, bastard? This was obviously said to Wappa, who did not answer, but directly raised the burning cannon and fired. Zoro also swung another knife to stab Enel. Both attacks were dodged by Enel's elementalization. After recovering, Enel knocked Zoro down with an electric shock and stepped on his face. Zoro's statement that he would not lose again was slapped in the face again. However, with his personality, as long as he didn't die, he really didn't lose. But Wappa took advantage of this moment to attack, even throwing away the burning cannon, and coiled himself on Enel, clamping his legs, and his right hand on his chest. He wanted to hit the natural fruit ability user. In addition to the armament color, it was sea stone. What do you want to do? Come and die. Even though he felt powerless, as the pride of God, Enel still had an indifferent look on his face. Wappa still had a cigarette in his mouth. There is a thing called sea stone, you know, Enel. This may be Wappa's charm and his annoying place. For the enemy and the battle, he will know in advance. But he doesn't tell his companions. Luffy and Mantis don't know that Wappa knows that Enel is thunder, and even prepared means to deal with it, just waiting for a perfect opportunity. Enelo's face changed, a drop of cold sweat flowed from his forehead. He naturally knew about sea stone. I have this thing on me, the ability user is really fragile. Die. Wappa's eyes were full of hatred. Stop, I know this is a repulsion, and it will also have a great impact on you. What are you dissatisfied with? Don't you want to get the earth? At this time, Enelo's face finally couldn't guarantee the calmness and indifference, and the damn contemptuous smile. Shut up. Death is my wish, if you come to accompany me. Wappa shouted sharply. A panicked look finally appeared on Enelo's face. Stop. However, the next second, Wappa resolutely pressed his arm. With a bang, a huge impact broke out. Enelo vomited blood and fell down. Chapter 326. Feeling a little perverted. You two bastards. The chef behind was cursing. But Bai Yun and Ace didn't care at all, because the chef could only curse and couldn't catch up. So, you really thought it through. Blackbeard's dark fruit ability restrains ability users. And I was able to cut off Blackbeard's left arm because I used the trump card of the replica. You can understand that I used 60% 70% of your father Whitebeard's strength when he was young to deal with Blackbeard, but still let him escape. If it was just my own strength, you might not see my clone. All the way here, Bai Yun was still persuading Ace. The possibility that Ace would not be caught 100% is to stop chasing and return to the Whitebeard pirates in this way. Blackbeard dares to catch him. It would be strange if Whitebeard didn't beat him to vomit blood. You know me, Bai Yun, don't persuade me. Ace answered Bai Yun like this all the way here. Bai Yun. Then do you understand me? Ace was stunned by Bai Yun's question. We grew up together, of course we understand each other. Really, then guess what I want to do next? Bai Yun asked. Ace just started to think. Bai Yun immediately squatted down and tripped Ace, and the whole person fell from the wall. Outside, Enola fell down. At this time, Luffy was still on the way to escape from the belly of the Lord of the Sky. Bai Yun was still accepting the fact that Bai was a muscular handsome man over 2 meters tall. Right, master. Bai lowered his head and smiled, a little teasing. Bai Yun curled his lips. Why do I feel that the master is more awkward than the dwarf? Bai was curious, what do you feel? Bai Yun replied confidently. It feels a bit perverted. Bai was speechless. Bai Yun, you know how to chat. Anyway, I don't care, you have to be responsible for me. Bai sat down cross-legged and tried to look at Bai Yun at eye level because Bai Yun was 175 meters tall. He was about 28 meters tall. You said that as if I did something to you, Bai Yun complained. Bai smiled back. What do you mean by this? Fact is this smile. Bai Yun couldn't help shouting. Bai's smile was simply saying, yes, you didn't know what you did, forget it if you don't say it. I guess I will help you. Look at your cuckold look, no, the look of kingly aura, and the look that animals are afraid of you. I know you are not simple. I hope you become a dragon. I hope you will be a great person after you regain your memory, and then take me flying with you. Bai Yun waved his hand, but he promised Bai that he would help him. Ha ha ha, aren't you afraid that I will be a murderous demon after I regain my memory? Bai asked with a smile. What can't I do if I don't blink? Bai Yun replied. Is this the point? Bai really feels that he never knows what Bai Yun will say next. Then you can kill him. Will you kill me? Bai Yun's tone was very calm. Bai looked at him, was silent for a while, and shook his head. No. Bai Yun smiled back. That's it. Looking at Bai Yun's smile, Bai also smiled. I really can't see through you, master. Of course, who am I? It's not that easy to see through. Okay, let's talk nonsense later. I think we should be able to communicate with consciousness in the future, right? So, how do I get out my servant? Bai Yun looked around, only a vast expanse of white. How could he get out? Bai stood up, his hair fluttering, but the strands under his abdomen did not move at all. In your words, the names of servant and master are just as perverted. Then I'll call you Bai. You can call me Brother Bai, Brother Yun, whatever is fine. Bai Yun replied. Bai smiled back and stretched out his hand. Let me take you out, Xiao Bai. After Bai finished speaking, before Bai Yun could speak, a huge white snake head appeared under Bai Yun's feet and swallowed Bai Yun. Chapter 327. That's Doctor Strange vs Dormammu. Well, he's a fat man with black curly hair. His name is Teach. Although he was angry at Ace's damn stubborn temper, after giving him a stumbling block, Bai Yun still chose to help Ace find out the whereabouts of Blackbeard. Ace was holding his cowboy hat and grinning. He knew from a young age that Bai Yun was a person who was tough on the outside but soft on the inside. Teach, he should be at the church in the town now. The two villagers at the dock told the whereabouts of Titch. Really? Ace was very excited. But Bai Yun knew that this Titch was not the same Titch. You two bastards! At this time, the restaurant owner caught up again. Bai Yun really didn't expect him to be so persistent. Haha, run, Bai Yun! Seeing this, Ace immediately pulled Bai Yun away. Back to the Sky Island. The breeze blew his sleeves and the mist floated. Wappa was standing and Enlil was lying. Did he really defeat him? Enlil showed such strong strength that Nami felt a little bit unbelievable. However, Enlil lay down with a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. This was a fact. Wappa bit the cigarette tightly. The recoil of the attack also made him spit blood. Looking at Enlil gasping for breath, he might also be thinking, is Enlil really down? Seeing that Enlil was motionless, Nami also plucked up the courage to get up and check on Robin and Gonfer. Robin! Strange night. However, she just stood up and took 2 steps. Instantly, lightning flashed. Enlil himself was covered by lightning. Lightning thundered, but Enlil was not seen. The road became charred. This is one of Enlil's skills. He uses electricity to give his heart an electric shock massage, which can stimulate his stopped heart to beat again. Very scientific. A few steady and powerful heartbeats sounded. Plop plop plop. Nami covered her mouth in disbelief. Is he massaging his heart? He stood up straight in a half-fan shape, and Enlil's feet did not move. In fact, people are not afraid of gods. But fear is the true definition of gods. Enlil wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his expression with a hint of mockery in his indifference was indeed terrifying. You are Wappa. I told you to stop, but you didn't listen. But, thanks to you, the damn chill disappeared. I didn't expect that Enlil's electrotherapy would also remove the poison left by Bai Yun. But Wappa couldn't stand steadily because of the recoil of the 2 attacks. But after 400 years, they finally came back here. Are they willing to fall down? No. In order to regain his hometown and to light the lamp of Shandora again, he stood up again. However, Enlil just swung the stick, and this time, Wappa even broke the Vayaba under his feet. Then he hit the 30 million volt Thunderbird, and Wappa fell down. Zoro picked up the sea stone and attacked Enlil, but was also knocked down by a thunder beast. Sea stone can only touch elemental natural ability users and make them lose their abilities. It cannot offset elemental attacks. If you don't believe me, let Akainu hit a lava boulder, and then use the sea stone to block it. See if the lava boulder is gone, or you are gone. However, even though his whole body was charred, Wappa stood up again, and his answer to Enlil was, "For my ancestors." Enlil didn't understand. He just felt stupid. A divine punishment fell, and no matter how thick the health bar of Wappa was, it was not enough. If he could still stand up, it would be Doctor Strange vs Dormammu. The lightning dissipated, and the world was quiet. Nami looked at the big pit in front of her, and Zoro, Robin and Gonfer on the ground in front of her. Now she was the only one left. You are the only one left, Enlil said coldly. Nami slumped on the ground and looked at Enlil. Why? Nami tried to adjust her breath. Please take me away. I will go to the dream world with you. Enlil narrowed his eyes. Nami's heartbeat was almost stopped in fear. But the next second Enlil laughed out loud. Yeah, ha 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 ha. Come with me, you did a good job. Chapter 328, I was possessed by a ghost just now. There was a quiet scene in front of the Shandora ruins. The breeze blew, and the mist slowly dissipated. It seemed as if nothing had happened. But the big pit on the ground, the people lying there, and the existence of the big snake, the Lord of the Sky, all proved that a big battle had just taken place here. In the end, only Nami was taken away by Enlil. Just as Enlil and Nami introduced the arc proverbs. Here, Luffy and the others finally came out of the Lord of the Sky's belly. The unconscious Lord of the Sky opened his eyes automatically, because Luffy and Aisha propped up his eyelids. The two tried to get out, but were bounced back. The white snake Bayun coiled in Luffy's hand at this time. He also woke up. Bayun, you are awake, what happened to you just now? Luffy asked immediately after seeing this. Recalling that he bit the Lord of the Sky uncontrollably, it was because Xiao Bai did it in order to establish a consciousness exchange with him, but he came to save people, but made things worse. Bayun still felt somewhat ashamed. Just now, I was possessed by a ghost. Possessed by a ghost? Luffy obviously didn't know what a ghost was. If you want to say that you are possessed by a ghost, it should be Xiao Ziobai who possessed me now. It's not good to call yourself a ghost. At this time, Xiao Bai's voice suddenly sounded in Bai Yun's mind. As Bai Yun guessed, he can communicate with Xiao Bai in the future. I don't know if it will be possible after his consciousness returns to the body. Shut up. Also, what is Xiao Zio Bai? Call Bai brother. Bai Yun silently said in his heart, and Xiao Bai could hear it. Although it was very quiet, Bai Yun still heard Xiao Bai laugh. Okay, okay. Bai Luffy saw Bai Yun was silent again, and thought that Bai Yun was possessed by a ghost again. Bai Yun, are you possessed by a ghost again? Bai Yun shook his snake head. No, I'm awake now. Hee. That's good, Luffy replied. Aisha walked over from the other eye. Is this snake awake? It said it was here to save us, but it bit the Lord of the Sky. You Qinghai snakes are really weird. Ahem. Let's go out, let's talk about it outside. Bai Yun knew that he was indeed in the wrong in this matter. Who knew that the bastard Xiao Bai had to suck the blood of the Lord of the Sky to be conscious? Yes. Let's go out first. Luffy couldn't stand being banned until now. Then let's just break the membrane in front of us and go out, Luffy suggested the Lord of the Sky. Thank you so much, Bai Yong said, pointing his tail at the deep pit below. Let's get out of the mouth. Aisha was still a little hesitant, and Luffy jumped down directly. Bai Yun saw this and hooked Aisha's hand with his snake tail. Oh wait, wow, bang! With a bang, the two people and the two animals fell out of the mouth of the Lord of the Sky and hit the ground. Because the Lord of the Sky was in a state with his head on a building and his mouth open, Luffy and the others could jump out in one jump, finally out a stone ground. Where is this? This was the first time Aisha saw a stone ground. She stood up and turned to look at Luffy, but saw that he had climbed up high. Luffy Aisha followed and saw Luffy standing with his feet apart, bending over and crossing his hands, then stood up instantly, raised his hands and shouted excitedly, I'm out! I'm out! Wow, look! It's so big. What is this place? Ruins. Where is the huge golden bell? Could this be our hometown? Aisha couldn't help but guess as she looked at the ruins in front of her. At this time, Luffy felt as if something was missing. What is that? A small white snake suddenly appeared in front of them, not far from their field of vision, and was falling freely. Well, when Luffy expressed his feelings with a big move just now, the lucky Bai Yun was thrown out. Chapter 329 I Really Love You. Church, church. Here, Bai Yun. In the town, Bai Yun and Ace were on their way to the church. Yet, Ace was in high spirits, but Bai Yun was not interested. Why are you so indifferent, Bai Yun? Bai Yun changed his expression immediately after hearing what Ace said. Let's go, the evil Blackbeard is waiting to be punished by us. Ace. You should use the same expression and emotion as before, Bai Yun. Bai Yun, _. But when Luffy reached a high place, Bai Yun saw the big hole in the distance and knew that it was too late to come out. The incident still happened. However, it is not bad to follow the original trajectory and know that the final result is victory. Luffy, look, there is a hole. Bai Yun reminded Luffy to go over and take a look. But Luffy did not respond. He was seen bending down with his hands crossed, as if he was accumulating strength. Bai Yun guessed what he was going to do. Luffy, listen to me. Bai Yun's words went in Luffy's right ear and out his left ear. I'm out. Luffy just spread his hands and raised them upwards along with his words. Bai Yun was thrown out. I really love you, Luffy. Hey, there's a big hole over there. What's that black shadow falling there? Luffy's IQ is enough to say this. Aisha, it seems to be the white snake in your hand. Luffy raised his right hand and saw his right hand. Really, Bai Yun, she said it was you. Hey! Bai Yun! Luffy finally reacted, his eyes widened. And he immediately jumped down from the height and ran to the big hole. Aisha had just climbed up, panting with exhaustion, and saw Luffy jump down directly, so she shouted immediately. Wait for me! She couldn't jump down directly like Luffy, because there was a stone ground below, it's not a cloud. When Aisha and Pierre arrived, Bai Yun had already coiled back into Luffy's hands, and Luffy was grabbing Zoro, who was lying on the ground and trying to wake him up. Zoro, hey, what's wrong with you? Why is this happening with you here? Where's Nami? She's not here. Luffy now felt angry and confused. He had never even seen Annalise. Wappa woohoo, even Wappa. Isa also found Wappa at the bottom of the cave, and his body was even more charred. Who is that guy with the burning cannon, such a powerful guy? It's... Having found a breath, Bai Yun was about to say something, but Aisha came up from the bottom of the cave and spoke first. It's Annalise. Only he can do it. Annalise. Is that God? Luffy replied. That's right. Bai Yun wanted to continue talking when he saw the right time Robin, who was lying on the ground, regained consciousness and whimpered twice. Hey Robin! Luffy went over immediately, and Bai Yun could only take back his words. Miss the navigator! She was taken away. Bai Yun coiled around Luffy's neck. Luffy stretched his hand over Robin's neck and half supported her up, so that she would feel better. Speak slowly. Nami was taken away by that god. Where was she taken? This was a very important question, but Robin shook her head because she really didn't know, but she knew that Enel's goal was to smash the entire Sky Island from the sky, and she told Luffy and the others about it then. Enel will definitely appear where the Golden Bell is, and that's the only chance to stop him if you miss it. Robin didn't continue talking because she knew it. Without saying anything, Aisha clenched her fists and shouted, "Don't worry!" Everyone's eyes moved to her. But she turned her head and looked in one direction. I can feel that there are two sounds moving on this island. It must be Nami and Enel. Bai Yun couldn't help but feel envious when he heard this. It's good to be born with observation haki. The range is so large. Enel still relies on the thunder fruit to expand such a large range. Sure enough, talent and destiny are also part of strength. Luffy looked in the direction Aisha looked, his eyebrows tilted down, and his eyes became fierce. Take me to them. On the Arc Proverbs. Enel and Nami talked about Koniza's riot at Angel Beach, but he didn't care at the moment. Even if the Sky residents knew his real purpose, what would it matter? It's just a matter of running away, and he can't escape death in the end. Looking at Enel, who was laughing on the high seat, killing people was like crushing ants to him. Nami kept thinking about escaping from here. At this time, Enel's laughter stopped abruptly. He felt the arrival of Luffy and others. Excuse me, what happened? Nami asked. Enel got down from the high seat and walked outside. Nothing. Although it was nothing, Enel looked very unhappy. Nami didn't dare to ask any more questions and could only follow him silently. Arc Proverbs deck. Enel flashed and flashed to the fence. The wind blew his earlobes, belt, and pants. Sure enough, the person who came was not any of the 5 survivors just now. It's really annoying. It seems that my prediction was wrong. Hanami was very puzzled by what Enel said, but then she heard a voice that she was very familiar with. You are the bastard named Enel. Hanami was so excited that tears hung in her eyes. Luffy. I saw Luffy standing in tattered clothes with a snake coiled around his neck, glaring at Enel on the way here. Bai Yun had already explained to Luffy the power of Enel's thunder fruit and observation haki. You made my partner like that, I'm going to beat you up, Luffy said. Enel looked down at him with a look of disdain. Your partner? Which idiot are you talking about? Chapter 330 Luffy vs Enelu. During the adventure with Ace, Bai Yun was thinking about how to get Ace back to the Whitebeard pirates. Drug him, and then carry him back. Ace might break up with him. Notifying Whitebeard and the others to come over is the best way, but according to Whitebeard's personality, he probably won't come. This depends on whether Bai Yun can convince Whitebeard by asking him to talk to him when Shanks and Whitebeard meet. Bai Yun said that there is not much hope. Whitebeard and Ace, one big and one small, are both stubborn. However, fortunately, Whitebeard has a brain and there is still some hope. Bai Yun has no hope of convincing Ace to go back. Ha! Ace, who was walking in front, suddenly sneezed. Strange. Do I have a cold? Bai Yun stepped forward and patted his shoulder. I checked it out, it's a terminal illness. Ace was shocked. What the hell? What terminal illness? Don't scare me, Bai Yun. Bai Yun sighed. Believe everything will only hurt you. Ace's brain CPU reacted. Okay, so you are lying to me. Bai Yun, yes, yes. Ace, damn Bai Yun, you think I am Luffy, right? Ace immediately attacked. Bai Yun dodged and ran forward. We are the same. Ace immediately followed. What do you mean by the same? Bai Yun did not answer, and he was right, your IQs are the same. What he was thinking at this time was that Shanks and his team were on their way to meet Whitebeard, and they could hurry up. And at this time on the ship of the Red Hair Pirates. Shanks, cheers, ha ha ha, let's drink happily. Others, cheers, Captain. Back to Sky Island. Sky Island boss Enelu and the main protagonist Luffy finally met. No, they met. At this time, they were all on the Ark Proverbs. The Ark Proverbs is a ship driven by the power of the Devil Fruit, and the energy source is electricity. There are two glass balls full of lightning on the deck. This design is very similar to the lunar civilization. They are all devices that convert electricity into energy. Luffy and the plate on his neck. Bai Yun stood on the ground, looking up at Enelu. Although he was looking up, he did not lose his momentum. Enelu stood on the right fence of the Ark Proverbs, looking down at the man and the snake. Nami stood a distance to the right of Enelu, and also looked down. Of course, she was standing on the deck. Be polite. I am a god, Enelu said. What qualifications do you have to be a god? Luffy stared at Enelu, and was even more impolite. Aisha, who was hiding behind, admired Luffy's courage, and Nami also admired him, but she knew how terrible Enelu was. Luffy, be careful. As soon as he shouted this, Enelu shot a death glare at him. Nami immediately covered her mouth and stepped back. Enelu retracted his gaze, put his hands on his waist, and laughed. Yet, ha ha ha, I heard it, the Angel's Banquet seems to have begun, and people seem to know the fate of Sky Island after losing their shelter. Where can they run to? Luffy became more and more angry as he listened. What qualifications do you have to be a god? Enelu looked at him with disdain in his eyes. You will know soon. Luffy stopped talking nonsense, rushed forward quickly, grabbed the side of the boat with both hands and threw it up. He came to the left of Enelu. Is that so? You are not an ordinary person either, but Superman series, it's not worth mentioning at all. Luffy continued to rush over. Enelu's right hand flashed with lightning, and his words were frivolous. Really, he has never been beaten by society. Nika, what did you say? Maybe, this is okay, super insulating, rubber. What are you talking about? Oh. Luffy didn't care what Enelu said, and rushed up to get close to him first. You can't do anything in front of me, because I am God. God's judgment. Enelu swung his right hand and threw the huge lightning column horizontally at Luffy. Luffy! Nami shouted worriedly. Luffy felt the blinding light and raised his hand to cover his eyes. The crackling sound disappeared. A big hole was smashed in the mountain behind Luffy. Luffy stood there unscathed with his hands on his hips and his mouth pursed. Even Bai Yun, who was wrapped around his neck, smiled. Bai Yun found something very interesting. Luffy was confused. What were you doing with such a big scene and so dazzling? Enelu was silent for a second and turned the golden stick in his hand. You dodged well. Nami was also confused. Luffy dodged. Bai Yun, no, I testify that he took it. 60 million volts, Thunder Dragon. Enelu hit the drum, and the huge Thunder Dragon swallowed Luffy. It still didn't work. Enelu didn't believe it. Rushed over, and pressed Luffy's chest. 100 million volts, discharge. The huge lightning flashed, and the aftermath could electrocute people into charcoal. But Luffy still stood still. Stop it! Luffy hit Enilo's stomach with a fierce headbutt, knocking him out. At this time, Enilo's expression was that historic expression. Whether it was more painful, or more surprised, more shocked, Bai Yun was more inclined to the latter. Luffy then flew a punch, and Enilo was shocked, his heart network was in chaos, and his stomach took another full hit from Luffy, and he fell directly to the ground. Chapter 331 Because I Have Strong Willpower. After chasing, Bai Yun and Ace came to the church. In front, a round figure with black curly hair appeared the moment Ace saw it. He immediately gave up attacking Bai Yun and turned to hit him. When Ace passed by him, two thoughts emerged in Bai Yun's mind. Stop, don't stop. Stop, what will happen next is unknown. Unknown. Ace will be thrown into the river and then seen by the little girl. Ace will be thrown into the river, will be thrown into the river. Omega. Bai Yun retracted his hand that was about to grab Ace. And Ace used a Leo kick to hit the target. I got you, Teach. After receiving a headbutt and a punch from Luffy, Enilo fell to the ground. But he was obviously not that fragile, and even the volley could not kill him. Luffy's two attacks were not as good as the volley at present. Enilo did a front flip and landed on the side of the ship, with blood on the corner of his mouth, looking at Luffy with an unhappy face. What's your name? Enilo asked directly, and Luffy answered directly. My name is Luffy, I'm a pirate, and I'm a rubber man. In Bai Yun's opinion, this is a fool's way to advance the plot. Who would tell the enemy about themselves, although it is in line with Luffy's character? Rubber. Enilo repeated doubtfully. There is no rubber on Sky Island. Thunder is useless to me. Luffy shouted and rushed forward with his fist. He was fine after being hit by so many moves from Enilo. Even a fool would know that. When the attack came, Enilo closed his eyes directly and activated his heart net. Luffy's punch missed, and he turned around to chase the rubber whip and missed again. He felt Enilo appear behind him, bent back, and put his feet together to shoot the rubber gun. Enilo turned into lightning again and dodged, and came behind Luffy, and the golden stick in his hand rotated and hit Luffy's left face. Luffy was still in a backwards posture and couldn't dodge at all at the critical moment. With a snap, Bai Yun blocked the attacking golden stick with his snake tail, opened his snake mouth, and sprayed frost at Enilo. What? Enilo turned into lightning again to avoid the cold air, and the cold air passed through and hit the wall, causing part of it to freeze directly. Luffy shook his hands hard, turned back, and turned to look at Enilo. Enilo moved his eyes from the frozen wall to Bai Yun. What the hell are you, little snake? Oh my, I'm so sad you forgot me so quickly, dear God. Bai Yun replied. Enilo's eyelids jumped. Obviously this voice, this mean tone. Bai Yun. You guessed it right, but there is no reward. You can continue to guess what fruit I ate. If you guess it right, there is still no reward. Bai Yun continued. Enilo's expression was cold. He really couldn't guess what fruit could turn into a snake, spit out cold air, and imitate other people's abilities. He didn't understand Luffy's rubber fruit either. He didn't understand, and this feeling made him very unhappy. But suddenly Enil thought of another question. This guy is the guy you said is not afraid of lightning. You were not afraid of lightning for 15 minutes before, and according to you, once a day. Then why are you not afraid of lightning now? When he said this, Luffy did not react. He felt that Bai Yun would not be surprised at anything he did. Nami was also puzzled. Yes, Bai Yun said his ability, the clone can only replicate the ability once, and it's used. Why is Bai Yun not afraid of lightning, and why can he possess Xiaobai? Because I have strong willpower. Bai Yun replied with a smile. Of course, the truth can't be so ridiculous. Since the consciousness came back from communicating with Xiaobai, Bai Yun felt that a force in his body could control the cold air, which should be Xiaobai's ability. After arriving at the Ark, Luffy attacked, and Bai Yun wanted to leave Luffy's neck. Luffy was not afraid of lightning, and he was terrible. But Xiaobai told him not to leave. After hesitating, Bai Yun chose not to leave, because it was Xiao Bai's body that was electrocuted anyway. Then, after Enel's god's punishment came, Bai Yun discovered that Xiao Bai's body could actually absorb lightning. Chapter 332 Flying. Faced with Bai Yun's answer, because I have strong willpower. Enel obviously knew that this bastard was making excuses again. Luffy was very happy to hear this answer. Ha ha ha, I have strong willpower, Bai Yun. Well, I believe it, absolutely believe it. Bai Yun replied very affirmatively. After all, this was copied from Luffy. Seeing that the two of them were still happily chatting, Enel couldn't bear it, and flashed forward, with the golden stick sticking straight out. Right. Bai Yun immediately reminded, and pulled it to the right. Luffy dodged to the right with great confidence, and then the stick head hit him in the face. Enel was also stunned. You caught it so steadily. Obviously, Bai Yun would not let Luffy get hit in vain. He was seen circling along the stick quickly to approach Enel. His tail showed armed color and wrapped around Enel's neck. He raised his head and bulged his mouth. Then he instantly sprayed cold air downwards at Enel. After Bai Yun got on Xiao Bai's body became larger. He circled and circled, and was just the size of Luffy's arm. The front seemed to Bun said, Epsilon. The cold air covered the top, and Enel's whole body instantly froze into a block. Bai Yun pulled out his tail, and lightning immediately leaked out of the small hole. Luffy! Bai Yun shouted. Luffy understood instantly. Rubber bazooka. Stepping forward, he gathered strength behind his back and bounced back to the front with both hands. The ice shattered and hit Enel's abdomen. Ugh! Enel vomited blood, and the whole person flew out like a cooked shrimp, hitting the wall of the golden statue head. Seeing this scene, Nami couldn't help but smile, but she only dared to say in her heart, beautiful. Aisha didn't expect that Luffy and the seemingly useless little white snake were so powerful. Enel stood up again and wiped the blood from his mouth. The attack didn't work on you. Looking at Luffy with no injuries on his face, Enel asked. That's right. Luffy replied decisively. Enel was silent. It just so happened that at this time, when he was about to destroy Sky Island and go to the Infinite Land, these two biggest changes appeared. Thunder Metallurgy. Enel raised the golden stick in his hand, used high-voltage electricity to generate a lot of heat energy to melt the stick head, and then reshaped it into a three-pointed, two-edged spear head. I don't have time to play with you now. Enel flashed and killed, and the tip of the spear with lightning stabbed Luffy. Luffy jumped to the face of the golden statue head, and Bai Yun took the opportunity to spray cold air at Enel again. Luffy stepped forward and prepared to use the rubber rocket launcher again. But Enel disappeared in an instant, without even lightning, but in the next second, it appeared in the form of lightning from the golden statue behind Luffy. Behind, Luffy? Bai Yun reminded immediately. But it was still too slow, and Enel shot Luffy with a gun, and a sizzling sound was heard. And white smoke came out. It's so hot. Enel laughed as he flew into the air in the second half of his elemental transformation. Ha 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 ha, even if I can't electrocute you, the electric heat stored in the gun can deal with you. Enel laughed happily, while Luffy endured the pain and grabbed the gun barrel, and swung his right foot violently. Rubber battle axe. Bai Yun immediately moved away when he saw this. Then Luffy suddenly stepped down on Enel's back, and Enel quickly fell freely onto the deck. Damn boy! Enel stood up again, and Luffy's rubber machine gun had already attacked. Enel stared unhappily, and in the next second he directly grabbed Luffy's hands and threw him down violently. No matter how fast you are, you only have two hands. Luffy! Nami and Bai Yun shouted worriedly at the same time. Enel turned around leisurely with the golden gun spinning. I want to visit Sky Island. But it's a pity that you arrived at the wrong time. I won't let you guys from Qingdao stop me. How about it, come with me to visit, see how this country is destroyed? Enel said as he walked, until he came to the two glass balls full of lightning mentioned earlier. Enel turned around, pressed the glass balls with both hands, and lightning in his hands burst out. The strongest 200 million volts discharge. The arc proverbs began to tremble, with a tendency to fly up. Chapter 333 Despair. I got you teach. In front of the town church, Ace used a Leo flying kick and hit the left waist of the Blackbeard in front. Hey hey hey! The priests and nuns in front of the church were frightened and widened their eyes, watching Blackbeard fly out sideways. Dr. Blackbeard! The nun immediately shouted in worry. Ace landed and took an attacking stance. Right, surrender, Dr. Blackbeard. Hey doctor! Time passed. And Enola felt that he could not waste any more time. The strongest 200 million volts discharge. As Enola pressed the two crystal balls and began to discharge, the electrical energy was converted into kinetic energy, and the arc proverbs began to tremble and slowly floated up. Nami was panicked. What should we do, Luffy? Don't be so scared. Luffy replied calmly. But you are the partner of the future king of the sea, what is there to be afraid of? Luffy stared at Enola with a firm look in his eyes. King of the sea, which country is that? Enola asked curiously. That is the greatest king of the sea in the world. Luffy replied. Bayun took over his words. Yes, that is not a country, but the whole world. Accept my surprise again, God Enelu. Bayun shouted excitedly, and saw the scarlet snake eyes turned blue, and lightning flashed inside. On the ground. Ah, big Malaysian bird, the boat is moving, what should I do? Pi. Nami, Lu, fell down. Aisha saw the arc proverbs flying up and shouted immediately. But halfway through, the arc proverbs, which had just floated 1 meter in the air, fell down again. Aisha was so scared that her eyes widened. The wind brought by the fall and hitting the ground blew up the sand and dust, and Pierre immediately protected Aisha with his wings. At this time, Enelu on the arc proverbs did not expect such a situation. He saw the white snake Bayun opposite him, with lightning eyes, bathed in lightning, and it seemed that every gap in the scales was leaking lightning. Enel understood why the arc proverbs flew up and then fell again. Bayun was absorbing his lightning. What fruit did you eat? Enel was almost losing his rationality, and he shouted with veins popping out of his neck. What kind of fruit is so outrageous? Duplicate, replica, snake, ice control, swallowing thunder. Bayun would of course not tell him, he only knew the last 3 today. And they are not fruit abilities. Guess. Bayun still said these 2 words. Ha ha yeah ha 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 ha. Very good, very good. I am the god of thunder. If you have the guts, swallow them all. The strongest 200 million volts discharge. Enel made another 200 million volt discharge, and his side on the deck was completely covered by lightning. He was in the center of the lightning, with a smug smile, like a lightning devil. He continued to release, and Bayun continued to receive. However, he did guess that he could release unlimitedly until his physical strength ran out, but Bayun couldn't. Just like a cup filled with water, it would overflow if he poured more. Bayun felt the limit of absorption if he continued to absorb. He was afraid that he would not be able to control it, so he gave up absorbing it. The lightning in his eyes disappeared and turned back to scarlet. Arc Maxim flew up again. Ya ha 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 ha, I am the god. Let's fight in the sky. If you can't beat me, then watch the sky island fall with your own eyes. Ya ha ha ha. Enel won and shouted happily, although Bayun didn't think this was a competition. After fully powered on, there were 6 arc maxims on both sides, each with 3 layers. The fan wings rotated quickly like helicopter propellers, carrying the arc maxims up. At this time, half of the ship had appeared on the ground, but it was stuck at this time. This was a good thing, but if it continued to turn up like this, the ground that was stuck would be cut sooner or later. Ha 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 ha. After being fully powered on, the function of this arc has begun to operate. I call it despair, it is the savior of this world. Because of Bayun, the arc was fully powered on after another round of discharge by Enelu. 3 times of 200 million volt discharge is probably not easy, but Enel still performed under control. And the word despair is not a good word no matter where it is placed. What are you going to do? Nami asked. Enel did not answer. And saw a hole suddenly opened on the top of the ark, and something like a chimney stretched out, constantly emitting black smoke. The smoke gathered in the air and slowly spread, and the vision was instantly darkened. What is that? If you are not blind, you can notice it, Nami said in surprise. Ya ha ha ha. Yes, that's a thundercloud. With my power, despair will emit thunderclouds with strong airflow. The cloud will continue to increase in strength until the entire sky island is covered in darkness. Then, under my instructions, dozens of lightning bolts will fall together and completely destroy this country. Ya ha ha ha. Just like this. Enel explained, saying that he was still not satisfied, and he stretched out his hand, and a pillar of lightning struck the direction of Angel Island. The residents of Angel Island who fled were instantly in panic. But fortunately there were white berets who abandoned darkness and joined the light to control order. Chapter 334 Only a minor injury. Dr. Blackbeard. Hearing the words of the nun, Ace was stunned. When did Teach become a doctor? Asshole. The persistent chef also rushed over at this time, and the residents on the street also gathered around after hearing the noise. Seeing Dr. Blackbeard lying on the ground, lying peacefully, he was also shocked. Doctor. Dr. Blackbeard, what's wrong with you? What are you talking about? When did Teach become a doctor? Stop pretending, Teach. Ace doesn't believe that Teach will become a doctor, if the person lying on the ground is really Teach. What Teach? My name is Chidi. The doctor lying on the ground resurrected and stood up, shouting to Ace. Ace looked at this more honest face with a less untidy beard, and Ace instantly realized that he had recognized the wrong person. At this time, feeling the killing gazes of the crowd, Ace felt guilty and cast a look for help to Bai Yun. Everyone followed his gaze. Bai Yun smiled, and then turned around and ran. Ace, degree. As a god, can you take anything at will? Seeing Enel use despair to control lightning to strike Angel Island, Luffy questioned angrily. Yes, including life and the earth. Enel smiled and said that was the case. When Luffy heard this answer, he clenched his fist tighter and tighter. At this time, Baiun observed that the armament haki on Luffy's fist was looming. Can it be like this? Baiun complained in his heart. While complaining, Baiun thought of a good way. Die Enel. Baiun flew directly at Enel. Enel didn't understand what he was doing with such a swaggering attack, and swung the trident in his hand with a bang. It hit Baiun. Baiun. Luffy quickly reached out and caught the flying Baiun. I'm fine, stop him, Luffy. Baiun said to Luffy with blood on his mouth. The anger buff bonus has been completed. And the armament haki on Luffy's hand has stabilized. It's so touching. Looking at the deep brotherly love between Luffy and Baiun, Enel chose to stab them all to death with a gun. Luffy immediately jumped up to dodge. Baiun took the opportunity to wrap around Luffy's neck, and Luffy then stepped down. Enel smiled and moved his body to the left, and then heard Baiun shouting. Left. Luffy heard the words, and instantly changed the direction of his half-stepped foot and kicked to the left, hitting Enel on the right face. What? Enel didn't finish his words, and his head hit the ship's guardrail, and then he immediately dodged away, but Luffy followed up instantly and punched, and Enel dodged again, but no matter which direction he dodged, with Bai Yun's reminder, Luffy's other fist could always hit him. This wave is that Enel sensed Luffy's attack and dodged, and Bai Yun sensed the direction in which Enel dodged and reminded Luffy to attack again. This sounds simple. But it is different to do it. No one can be slower, but after a period of cooperation, Luffy and Bai Yun are very tacit. After being hit by a rubber rocket and a rubber boomerang, Enel fell down, and he fell down again. I don't know how many times he fell down. With the tacit cooperation of Luffy and Bai Yun, Enel fell down again and again. But at this time, Arc Proverbs also broke through the gap and left the ground, flying completely. Success! Nami's tone was full of joy, confusion, and complexity. This guy won't fall down so easily, Bai Yun said. Sure enough, the next second, Enel's laughter came over. Yeah, ha 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 ha. No, that's all. Enel slowly stood up, his chin was almost covered with blood, but this can only be regarded as a minor injury in the world of pirates. Chapter 335 It's my body that was electrocuted. The dark clouds covered the sky, and lightning flashed in it. What a doomsday scene! Thunder and lightning poured down like rain and down. Everyone avoided these lightning pillars. But there was a figure flying up into the sky and actively crashing into the lightning. Just like the original trajectory. Enel used gold to put a golden ball on Luffy's hand and threw him off the Arc Proverbs, along with Baiun. Only Enel and Nami were left on the ship. Under the frontline rescue of Love by Usopp and Sanji, Nami also got off the Arc Proverbs. Sanji also pretended to be handsome and broke the power conversion system of the Arc Proverbs, but Enel had a second layer of preparation. Even if the power system was broken, there were still 200 wind shells under the Arc, which was enough to take the Arc Proverbs to fly. As Usopp went up to the Arc again to rescue Sanji, only Enel was left on the Arc, and his plan began. After a lot of trouble, from the beginning of the search for the ruins of the Golden Town, to now, everyone finally gathered under the huge vines. Luffy knew that Enel's target was the Golden Bell. So he quickly climbed up the vines even with the huge golden ball in his toe. Bai Yun did not follow him up, but stared at the dark clouds in the sky. Bai Yun absorbed Enel's lightning. In fact, he could use lightning metallurgy like Enel to help Luffy get the golden ball down, but he did not, because the golden ball seemed to be a burden, but it was actually a divine weapon. If water and blood were divine weapons when fighting Crocodile in Alabasta, they were the prerequisites for hitting him. Then the conductive golden ball was the divine weapon for hitting Enel, and it could also hit Enel without the armed color. Zoro. Chopper. Weird Old Man. Gorilla. When Nami, Sanji, and Usopp came under the vines, Luffy had already climbed up. Usopp and Sanji had fallen into a coma before, and they didn't know that Zoro and the other four were so miserable when they arrived. Usopp shouted worriedly. Damn it, everyone is in such a mess, if I were here. Usopp's catchphrase. If I were here. After knowing that Luffy climbed up the vines, Nami also chased him on the Viper, and asked Robin to organize others to return to the Mary to find a solution. Enelo's goal is to sink the entire Sky Island, and it is not a good idea to continue staying here. In the consciousness space. Why are you here again, Xiao Ziobai? Looking at Bai Yun's consciousness coming again, Ziobai asked with a smile. But Bai Yun was not in the mood to joke this time. You know the situation outside, Ziobai. Seeing Bai Yun's seriousness, Ziobai also restrained his smile. Well, dark clouds are covering the sky. Yes, there is no time, I will say it directly. Can you change your body back, I mean, from the white snake to your current human form? Bai Yun asked. Ziobai was silent for a few seconds. You guessed that after turning into a human form, the ability to absorb lightning may increase, so it can stop the falling lightning. Right. You are very smart. Bai Yun replied. You don't need to praise me for this. Indeed, it's as you guessed, but you know, I'm recovering from my injuries, and turning back into a human form will only be detrimental to my injuries. Besides, it's my body that's being electrocuted. Ziobai complained, you are very righteous, but think about it, this is my body. Bai Yong looked at Ziobai with sincere eyes, I'm sorry, please. Finally, Ziobai compromised. Well, okay, but you have to agree to one condition of mine. What? From now on, I'll call you Xiao Ziobai, you have to agree. Chapter 336 Haven't you seen a handsome guy? The Arc Proverbs has completely flown away, and the thunderclouds have completely covered the sky above the Sky Island, a scene of black clouds pressing down on the city and wanting to destroy it. If Enel is not stopped, the Sky Island will be destroyed. Bai Yun knew that Luffy would stop Enelu in the end. He knew, but he couldn't do nothing, he couldn't change nothing. In the outside world, Arc Proverbs was near the huge vines, and Luffy dragged the golden ball to the vines. In the world of consciousness, Bai Yun needed strength, but now he only had one consciousness on the Sky Island, so he had to ask Xiao Bai, the mysterious guy, for help. Xiao Bai agreed to help, but with conditions. I will call you Xiao Bai in the future, you have to agree. The situation was urgent, and facing Xiao Bai's request to knock his dignity, Bai Yun had no choice but to accept it. Okay. Xiao Bai smiled back. I really agreed, although if you don't agree, I will still call you that. Bai Yun's eyes went to kill. Okay, I won't talk nonsense. Let me say one last thing, although it is my body, but the consciousness is your consciousness. If the lightning body breaks through the limit, you still have to bear the pain. Are you sure, Xiao Bai? Xiao Bai put away his smile and asked seriously. Pain. Bai Yun recalled the injuries suffered by Luffy and the others in his mind. If he was afraid, he would not be suitable to stay in the Straw Hat Pirates. I'm sure. Bai Yun replied with determination. Xiao Bai's smile returned to his face. You are really stupid. Bai Yun was about to refute, but he saw this nearly 3-meter tall man, with his arms open, hugging him with his chest wide open. What are you doing? Just hearing Bai Yun's voice, Xiao Bai, who was holding Bai Yun, was covered with white light, completely swallowing Bai Yun's sight. This made Bai Yun remembered that when he just crossed over, he was lying in the sky, opened his eyes, and was hit by the sun. Outside, thunderclouds are ready to go. When Bai Yun came with Luffy, he explained to Robin and the others that his consciousness was now in Xiao Bai's body. Although it was strange, it was not so strange because it happened to Bai Yun. And Robin had noticed that Bai Yun had been in a daze since just now, so he couldn't help but worry. He stepped forward and was about to ask, but he saw that Bai Yun, or should I say Xiao Bai's white snake body, was instantly covered with white light in this dark sky. It was particularly conspicuous, particularly holy, as if it was about to evolve. Bai Yun. Even though Robin was well read, he had never seen such a situation. The snakes in Qinghai are really strange. Aisha complained. Pierre the great Malaysian bird also echoed. Bai Yun is so dazzling. Usopp stretched out his hand to cover his eyes and watched through his fingers. Nami, who was about to help Vaeba up, was also attracted by the noise. What happened? And Bai Yun, under the public eye, did evolve. The white light spread instantly, and people couldn't help but close their eyes. Even if they could bear not to close their eyes, they could only see a white blur in front of them. When everyone's sight was restored, they saw that the snake was gone where the white snake Bai Yun had been before, and it was replaced by a handsome white-haired man who was more than 2 meters tall and nearly 3 meters tall. Naked, with only a few strands of hair wrapped around his waist. Why, haven't you seen a handsome guy before? Bai Yun said. Bai Yun's voice was familiar to everyone, and they couldn't help but be startled. Bai Yun. No, Bai Yun, you don't look like this handsome and tall, and look very strong. Usopp complained. A well-shaped figure popped up on the back of Bai Yun's head. Why do you sound like you are scolding my original body? Aisha was also greatly shocked. The snake in Qinghai can also become a handsome big brother. Chapter 337 Attracting Lightning with One's Body. Bai Yun evolved from a white snake to a handsome white-haired guy. This is very strange, and Robin and the others also know that this is not Bai Yun's fruit ability, and isn't the white snake Xiao Bai. However, not to mention them, when Bai Yun first entered the consciousness space, he saw Xiao Bai's true appearance like this, and he also thought, why is this kid so handsome? Bai Yun, what's going on? Nami asked. Nothing. I can't explain it for the time being, anyway, I feel good strength now. Bai Yun clenched his fist and replied. Aren't you going to take the Viper to find Luffy? Go quickly, leave the rest to me. Bai Yun continued, looking up at the sky full of thunderclouds, but there was no trace of interest in his eyes. What? Nami hadn't finished the word what when she saw Bai Yun bend his legs and launch, and flew into the air. As he flew up, thunder fell. Enelu on the Ark Proverbs stretched out his hand to control the boundless thundercloud. Then, the party begins. 10,000 thunders. Countless pillars of thunder fell down instantly. The trees were struck and ignited with thunder and fire. The angels who fled Angel Island fell into panic again. The people under the huge vines looked at this doomsday scene in horror. However, when a pillar of thunder was about to hit the ruins in front of them, it suddenly turned in a direction and swam back into the air like a living snake. Not just this one pillar. Robin and the others looked up. All the thunder pillars that fell again swam into the air as if they had become alive, and their goal was the same, with one point as the center. Such a scene was even more peculiar than the pouring down of 10,000 thunders. The same target that those lightning pillars swam back to was naturally Bai Yun standing in the air. Bai Yun attracted the lightning with his body. That's Bai Yun. Usopp adjusted the glasses on his face to focus his vision. The appearance of Bai Yun bathing in lightning in the air was instantly clear. Is this what Bai Yun said, leaving the rest to him? Nami murmured, with a slight smile on her lips. Bai Yun never disappoints people. Of course, Luffy is the same. Then she should do something. Everyone, while Bai Yun is controlling the lightning, hurry back to the ship. I will take Luffy back. After saying that, Nami activated the Viper and drove up along the vines. Usopp exhaled, okay, you are worthy of being my little brother, Bai Yun. Hurry up Robin, find a way to get them back to the ship. Usopp squatted down and pushed Sanji to lie on his side while talking. Before Robin could answer, Wappa stood up like a fallen hoe being stepped on. Wappa Aisha shouted. Then, Zoro and Gonfer woke up. Zoro. Weird old man. Great, you finally woke up, can you leave? Usopp said. Robin agreed with him, let's go, we can't do anything here. But Wappa was like a statue, looking at the scene in front of him. He remembered the story of his ancestors in Nolando 400 years ago that the current Shandia patriarch told him. I won't go into details. At the Ark Proverbs, Enel stood on the guardrail, looking at the scene of thunder and lightning. The scene, opened his mouth and laughed happily. Ya ha ha ha, what a wonderful scene. But when he was happy, a figure suddenly appeared in the distance opposite him. Standing opposite him. This is not the main point. The main point is that the falling lightning pillars at this moment, as if being pulled, flew towards this figure. The figure was swallowed up in an instant, but bathing in the thunder and lightning, he seemed leisurely and contented. Enelu's laughter stopped abruptly. Chapter 338. You are not qualified to decide the fate of others. Ya ha ha ha. This is the sky, it is the territory of God. Everything should disappear, whether it is a person, a tree, or the earth. Go back to where you came from. Watching the thunder pouring, Enelu stood on the guardrail of the Ark Proverbs, looking down from a high place, really like a god looking down on all living beings with contempt. God is certainly qualified to deprive everything, because he is God, but since he wants to deprive everything, he must be prepared to be pushed off the altar. Bai Yun flew up into the air, his eyes were full of lightning, his white hair fluttered in the wind, lightning flashed between his hair. And all the lightning pillars that fell again were attracted to him. Compared with Enel's current appearance, he looked more like the god of thunder. And Enel couldn't laugh when he saw this scene. The thunderclouds covered the sky, and lightning pillars kept falling, and then were attracted to Bai Yun. What a special scene! Enel stood on the guardrail of the Ark Proverbs, Bai Yun stood in the air, and the two looked at each other 100 meters apart. Enel's hand holding the golden stick became tighter and tighter. Absorbing lightning, he thought of the little snake. No need to guess, the person in front of him now is the little snake. Clone, little snake, white-haired man. 3 different appearances, but they all have the same name. Bai Yun. Enel didn't understand, he couldn't figure out who this Bai Yun was. What exactly is his ability? Enel knew that Bai Yun had a limit to absorbing lightning. Wouldn't he absorb it? Then I'll let you absorb as much as you want. I am the god of thunder. 60 million volts, 4 directions, thunder dragons. Enel stretched out his golden stick and swung it, directly controlling the lightning in the thundercloud to transform into thunder dragons and hit Bai Yun. With Bai Yun as the center, a thunder dragon fell from the thundercloud in the 4 directions of southeast, northwest, and northeast, swimming towards Bai Yun. Bai Yun could feel it, but he was not panicked at all. He clenched his fists, and a thunder ball expanded from his chest, surrounding him. 4 thunder dragons flew over and hit the thunder ball, and sank directly into it, like a mud cow entering the sea. Enel's face did not change, he obviously knew the result. God's punishment. Hands turned into thunder and lightning, and God's punishment was continuously hit like a normal attack. Bai Yun knew that there was a limit to his ability to absorb thunder and lightning. But if he could absorb but not release, wouldn't he be a fool? God's punishment, right? Then I'll do the wrath of mortals. A bit like a middle school student, Bai Yun also turned his hands into lightning and struck out, confronting Enel through the air. What is that? It seems someone is fighting Enel. Down with Enel, down with Enel. The air was spacious and clear, and everyone could see the confrontation between Bai Yun and Enel clearly. The angels fleeing from Angel Island were attracted by the confrontation, stopped to watch, and couldn't help shouting. The people under the vines could naturally see it. Too amazing! Usopp sighed at Bai Yun's awesomeness. Aisha was already impressed by the magical and powerful snakes in Qinghai. Robin was still thinking about the mystery of Bai Yun, he seems to have many secrets. Zoro didn't seem surprised by anything Bai Yun did. Sanji lit one, it's so powerful, why don't you take it out earlier? Gonfer watched silently without saying anything. But he really wanted Bai Yun to subdue Enel. Wappa woke up from the story of his tribe. He didn't know that the person who fought against Enel was Bai Yun. He didn't know that the little snake before was Bai Yun. But it's a good thing that someone fights against Enel. Hearing the shouts of the people below, and Luffy and Nami climbing up, Enel's expression became more and more ferocious. Damn it! Can't you just accept your fate? Luffy came to the shrine on the vines at this time. He also heard what Enel said. He replied in tacit agreement with Bai Yun. You are not qualified to decide the fate of others. Chapter 339 Thunder Welcome. At this time, Arc Proverbs has reached the top of the huge vine, and Enel is looking for the golden bell. Luffy climbed up along the vines, dragging the golden ball. And just happened to answer Enel's question with Bai Yun. You are not qualified to decide the fate of others. And Bai Yun and Luffy's answers made Enel laugh. Yeah ha ha ha. Then let me show you if you are qualified. The vines are divided into 3 parts, the top, the middle, and the bottom. The top is the shrine at the bottom, the middle is the shrine at the top, the central Shandora ruins are at the bottom, and the bottom, naturally, is the central Shandora ruins at the top, although the central Shandora ruins have been broken by Enel now. Enel first controlled the lightning to break the top of the vine. Ah! Luffy, who climbed up, had no way in front of him in an instant, and almost fell down, so he immediately wrapped his hands around the vines and hung in the air to avoid falling. The broken vines fell below, scaring the people below. Wappa is still insisting he had to climb the vines, because the golden bell was what his ancestors had been thinking about, but his body couldn't bear it. And when he saw the vines falling down, he was silent. Ya ha ha ha, just watch carefully, do I have the qualifications? Enelo laughed at Luffy hanging on the vines, then raised his head and killed Bai Yun's sight, and then the whole person turned into an element, transformed into lightning and disappeared. Gone? Luffy asked in confusion. When he was wondering, he was suddenly grabbed by the waist and lifted up. Luffy turned his head and looked. Who are you? Who else could it be? Of course it was Bai Yun. Bai Yun knew Enelo's next plan, but he still came over and took Luffy to the shrine. Bai Yun smiled back. Bai Yun. After saying that, Bai Yun continued to fly away, looking in the direction of Angel Island. Bai Yun. Hey Bai Yun, when did you become so tall and your hair has turned white? Luffy's brain CPU was reacting quickly, but if Bai Yun didn't tell him why, he probably wouldn't be able to react in his lifetime. And just as he was reacting, Nami also came up. And a viper just happened to press Luffy down. Luffy. Hey Nami, why are you here? I came to pick you up, Sanji and Usopp saved me. Nami explained, and just as she was about to continue, she caught a glimpse of something incredible. Oh no, the thundercloud formed a strong airflow and a sphere of discharge. Enelo is going to use that thing to smash Angel Island. As Nami said, in everyone's sight, a huge spherical black cloud appeared over Angel Island. Enelo used the wide-range thundercloud created by the Arc Proverbs to release the lightning he created, thereby stimulating the thundercloud to turn it into a huge spherical black cloud, which looks similar to ball lightning, and its interior is full of amazing airflow and electric current. What a nightmare! This scene is definitely not in the human world. What on earth does he want to do? Gonfer and everyone else were staring at the black ball thundercloud. In Bai Yun's perspective, Enelo appeared on the thunderball with his arms open. Yahahaha! The sky is mine. I want you to know that the Arc's motto plus my ability can accomplish God's great cause. I am God. Strike Angel Island. Thunder welcome. The huge black ball thundercloud kept falling, and if it fell, it would only destroy everything. Bai Yun said before that he couldn't change nothing, he would definitely change definitely. Bai Yun came to the bottom of the thunderball, dragged the thundercloud with both hands, and kept flying upwards, stopping the trend of the thunderball falling. Ah! Disappear for me! Bai Yun roared with all his strength, and lightning came out of his 7 orifices, absorbing all the lightning in the thunderball. The whole thunderball was like a bubble, popping, breaking and dispersing. Chapter 340 I Just Don't Like You. When the thunderball was about to hit Angel Island, Bai Yun appeared in time and absorbed all the lightning in the thunderball. And then the whole thunderball burst like a bubble. Originally, they were so excited that they saw Bai Yun in the air and cheered. But they didn't know what to cheer for. Miracle God appeared. But their God was the one who hit the thunderball. Finally, someone shouted, "Hero!" Then a huge hero shout broke out. Hero! Hero! It's still Bai Yun. The distance was far, and Usopp could barely see it clearly. This word was very essential. Others were silent and only placed their hopes on Bai Yun and Luffy. It disappeared. Did the gods really hear my prayers? God, please bless Sky Island and Miss Nami and the others to return to Qinghai safely. I will protect the ship and wait for their arrival. Konis was guarding the Mary at the edge of the Island of Gods. This was the only thing she could do. Of course, she also prayed for Sky Island and everyone. Everyone was happy, but Enel was not happy. You again. It seems that after turning from a snake to a human, the absorption ability has increased. The two confronted each other in the sky above Angel Island. Enel did not understand. What's wrong with this Angel Island? Did it save your life? How are you going to protect it? Bai Yun shook his head. No, 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 you misunderstood. I am not protecting it, I just don't like you. When Enel heard this, anger flashed in his eyes, but he smiled. Do you think I will fight you so that you can release the lightning you have absorbed? Yahahaha, if you want to absorb it, just absorb it enough. Let's see how much you can absorb. 10,000 thunders. 10,000 thunders fell again, and Enel disappeared in a flash. Bai Yun sighed, this guy still has a brain, why didn't he get angry and fight him, what a pity. Releasing power again, Bai Yun continued to absorb the falling lightning pillars. He naturally knew what Enel's next step would be, so he waited for the opportunity to come. Back to the giant vines. Luffy and Nami were at the vine shrine. And they could see clearly what was happening over Angel Island. Luffy put his hands on his hips and laughed. Ha 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 ha, it's Bai Yun as expected. Yes, it's him as expected, then let's go down quickly Luffy. Bai Yun has a limit to absorbing lightning, we have to leave before he can't hold on. Nami anxiously reminded Luffy to run away quickly. But Luffy looked towards Angel Island. The wind blew his clothes, hair, and hat. No. Nami was very confused. No. What are you talking about? No, why not? Are you going to live up to Bai Yun's work? In fact, Nami's behavior is easy to understand. Enel showed an invincible attitude. She just wanted to protect herself and her friends. Although I don't need you to save me, I still have things to do here. Luffy said firmly. What is it? What else do you have to do here? Are you going to seek revenge on Enelu? Nami replied. There is a golden bell here. Luffy shouted. Gold. Forget it. It's more important to save your life now. You also saw that although his lightning is useless to you, he can destroy everything except you. And gold, isn't it gold in your hand? Give up the others, you will be killed. Nami advised. The fact that she said that gold doesn't matter has proved that in her heart, companions are more important than money. Of course, if nothing happens in ordinary life, money is still the first priority. How can I die? You saw it too. Doesn't the golden country exist? Hanami was stunned. Luffy didn't seem to be the one she wanted to stay for the gold. That's not a lie. The ancestors of the chestnut-headed uncle didn't lie, so I must tell the uncles and gorillas below that the golden country is in the sky. As long as the bell rings, they will hear it. Otherwise, the uncles will search for the golden country on the seabed until they die. How can I let Enel take it away? Because the sound of that bell will surely reach the ends of the earth. So, I will ring the golden bell. Chapter 341. The time to end everything. Although Bai Yun absorbed Enel's huge thunder ball, but the thunderclouds are still covering the sky, and Enel still exists. Everything is not over yet. Luffy's goal is to ring the golden bell to tell Coolie Kate and the others about the existence of the golden country, and Enel wants to take the golden bell away. Then, they will definitely fight again. Success. Luffy successfully grabbed the guardrail of the Arc Proverbs, but before he could get up, he was kicked down by Enel. Ya ha ha ha. Ya ha ha ha. You don't think that damn Bai Yun can absorb lightning, so everything will be fine, right? Wait until I get what I want. I will send down even bigger thunder, absorb it, I will make him absorb it until he vomits. No one can stop me. I will destroy everything in the Holy Land in the sky. It is my responsibility as a god to restore everything. Yeah ha 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 ha. I won't let you succeed. Looking at Enel's smug expression, Luffy became more and more angry. He rushed up again, and was knocked down again, but he would not give up, because he was Luffy. Then Vibrator wanted to rush up again, but the anger buff could not let him learn to drive Vibrator immediately, and this time he fell down. And Enel's Arc Proverbs also drove away. Luffy looked up at the bottom of the arc. Asshole! I'm going to tell the uncle. I'm going to ring that bell. Under the vines. That guy said he would ring the bell. Wappa didn't understand why Luffy still went up. Yes, he did say that, but the situation is a bit. Robin replied. Zoro took over Robin's words. He is a man of his words. Even if Nami wants to bring him back, he will not turn back, because this is his purpose. Same as Enel. Yes, to put it bluntly, he is stubborn. However, his stubborn things are always worth doing. Bai Yun's voice suddenly sounded. Everyone looked in the direction where the voice came from, and saw Bai Yun falling from the sky, with countless lightning pillars behind him. and the whole person was bathed in thunder and lightning. Don't come over, unless you want to come here to get a tan, the kind of black that is burnt black. Bai Yun can always make jokes, this is the Bai Yun that Zoro and the others know. Thank you, on behalf of this country, I express my sincere gratitude to you. Gonfer knew that Angel Island could stay because of Bai Yun, and bowed deeply to him. Bai Yun did not speak, but took it silently, he was qualified to take it. Something fell down again. At this time, Usopp observed that something fell from the top of the vine again, and immediately reminded everyone. What fell down was a huge leaf. What's written on it? Aisha was sharp-eyed and noticed that there were words on the leaf. It's the message left by Luffy and Nami, what is it? Aisha did not recognize Qinghai characters. Robin recognized cut down this huge vine to the west. What? What will happen if you do that? Wow, look at that! Usopp said halfway, his tone changed, and with a sense of horror. He stretched out his hand and pointed to the sky. A thunder ball several times larger than the one that appeared on Angel Island just now appeared on the Island of Gods. Once it fell, the consequences would be disastrous. This damn guy! Gonfer cursed. Bai Yun's expression did not change, it seems that Enel has found the golden bell. It's time to end everything. Do as Luffy and Nami say, and leave the thunder ball to me. Zoro thought for a while and reminded him. Don't force yourself. Bai Yun smiled back, it's okay, I believe in Zio Bai's body. After that, Bai Yun flew into the air instantly. Chapter 3 Chapter 42 There will be a time when you can't laugh. Yahaha goodbye, Sky Holy Land. A thunder ball several times larger than the one on Angel Island appeared in the sky above the Island of Gods. Enel stood on the guardrail of the Ark Proverbs and stretched out his hands to bid farewell to the Sky Holy Land. Of course he knew that Bai Yun could absorb lightning. But he didn't believe that such a large thunder ball could not reach Bai Yun's absorption limit. At the shrine. At this time, only Luffy and Nami were there. Luffy would not run away, because he wanted to ring the golden bell with his temper, he would not give up as long as he didn't die. Nami, why don't you run away? Seeing that Nami was still staying, Luffy asked, because Nami wanted to leave so much just now. Do you have to ring that bell? Nami answered in a rhetorical way. Well, I must ring it. Luffy answered firmly. You can't even fly vibrator, but even if I don't care about you, you still want to fly up. Then I'll take you up, but you have to ensure my safety. Nami made up her mind to reply, this is a partner. Okay, got it please. Luffy can only rely on Nami now, and he also believes in Nami. There is only one chance, and it's fleeting. Nami adjusted vibrator, reminded herself. And also reminded Luffy. Under the vine. Follow this vine that is about to fall, fly to the ship. Zoro guessed what Luffy and Nami were thinking. Besides this, there is no other possibility. Usopp felt that it was too risky, this was a gamble with his life. That's really messed up. Zoro, then you go up and stop them. Usopp, how can I stop them? Can't do it, but justified it doesn't matter what happens. We can only do it. Bai Yun also said that we should do it according to Luffy and the others' plan. We can just watch. After Zoro's words, everyone fell silent. The thunder fell, but was attracted by Bai Yun halfway. Zoro saw it, so he was relieved and bent down to hold the knife to accumulate power. Facing the huge thunder ball, even Zio Bai's nearly 3-meter tall figure seemed small. How is it, can you hold on, Zio Bai? Bai Yun flew up, and as the distance got closer and closer, he could clearly feel the huge energy contained in the thunder ball. And asked worriedly. What do you think? This is not the situation now, it has to work even if it doesn't work. Zio Bai replied, with a bit of resentment in his tone, and you can also hear the indifference in his tone. Ha ha ha, with your words, I can go ahead with confidence, Bai Yun replied, doubling his speed and flying towards the bottom of the thunder ball. Although Ziobai was in the consciousness space, he was very familiar with the situation outside. What he wanted to say about Bai Yun's approach was these two words. Seeing Bai Yun flying up, Enelu did not stop him at all. Yehahaha, until now, you bugs are still struggling. You can suck, right? Yehahaha, then try to suck it. Even if I absorb this thunder ball, I can still make a second one, a third one. No one can stop me. I am God. Facing Enelu's arrogant words, Bai Yun did not listen at all, and chanted sutras. He flew directly past him and flew to the bottom of the thunder ball. He resolutely stretched out his hands to the bottom of the thunder and lightning, and the air pressure under his feet continued to explode to prevent it from falling, and those lightning pillars that were absorbed like snakes fell straight down at this time to absorb this huge thunder ball. Bai Yun could no longer care about the thunder pillars. Under the vine, Zoro drew his sword and slashed, successfully cutting off one of the vines. This huge vine is composed of two vines that spiraled together and grew upward. Zoro was turning around to continue, and the thunder pillar poured down again. It caught him off guard. He was already in a low health state, and this made Zoro fall again. At this time, the Lord of the Sky woke up, recalled what happened 400 years ago, and saw the ruins of Shandora in front of him destroyed like this. Tears could not stop flowing, and he ran wildly and hit the huge vines as fate would have it. But the vines were only slightly tilted. Walpa was still struggling. He wanted to climb up only as a descendant of the great warrior Kalgara. He would ring the golden bell. But when Robin told them about the story of their encounter with the descendant of Nolando, Coolie Kate, and the promise made by Luffy, Walpa was instantly moved and resolutely used the row to hit the vines. Another vine was blown off, and the entire huge vine began to tilt to the west. At the shrine above the vine, feeling the vine tilt, Nami activated the vibrator. It's falling. The vine is starting to fall. I'm going to charge, Luffy. Just charge. Luffy replied firmly. I haven't tried the top speed of this wind vent yet. I don't know if I can control it. But, it's too late to control it now. Sit tight. We're going to charge. Luffy. The vent exploded with huge wind energy, and the entire vibrator rushed out in an instant, and the extreme speed almost caught up with the lowest speed of Bai Yun's air compression technique. Bai Yun looked down from above. Seeing the huge vine falling, the corners of his mouth rose slightly. And the proud Enelu was still laughing. Laugh. You have the laugh when they don't come out. Chapter 343. It's better to rely on yourself than on God. Seeing Luffy and Nami leaning against the vines and trying to fly over, Enelu directly rained down thousands of thunders on the island of God and carried out concentrated bombing. He wanted to blow up the island of God, so that the vines would have no foundation and would fall directly from the sky instead of continuing to tilt and fall. However, the idea was good, but such a distributed lightning column attack was obviously not powerful enough to smash a solid island that was not made of clouds. Not only could it not stop Luffy and Nami, it also made everyone sigh at the eternal solidity of the island of God, that is, the earth, and instead saw a glimmer of hope in this doomsday scene. Go Straw Hat Boy. From the moment Walpa broke the vines with a row of attacks, Walpa had completely trusted and relied on Luffy. Go, Walpa, the vines are falling this way. Aisha immediately reminded. And Usopp came to help her pull away Walpa. Luffy and Nami on the vines also reached the end of the vines. Unfortunately, because part of the vines were cut off by Enel's electricity, they could not touch the Arc Proverbs. But now, are there any other options? Nami stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and Viva rushed out with them instantly. Here I come, Enel. Give the golden bell back. Luffy was aggressive. Enel looked disdainful. Everyone is so stupid. Enough, you are annoying enough, the thundercloud is big enough. Disappear with the whole country. Thunder welcome. Enel opened his arms, as if to welcome his victory. Unfortunately, he welcomed it too early. Rainama. Luffy hit him. At this time, all the thunderclouds in the sky gathered into this huge thunderball. This was Enelo's last attack on the entire Sky Island. The thunderball was even twice as big as the Island of Gods. Bai Yun was constantly pressed down. Hearing Luffy's voice, Bai Yun knew that the thunder ball should disappear. After shouting for Luffy to hit Enelu, he resolutely went into the thunder ball. Bai Yun! Nami shouted. She thought Bai Yun was crazy. The thunder ball was a vortex of airflow and lightning, and he would be torn to pieces if he went in like this. Believe in Bai Yun, Nami. Also, thank you, I won't let you work in vain. After saying that, Luffy threw Nami and Viva onto the island cloud where the golden bell was placed before. Now the golden bell is on top of Enelu's arc proverbs. The thunder ball is still falling, but Luffy trusts Bai Yun very much. He doesn't care at all and only attacks Enelu. Ya ha ha ha, in such a huge force, that kid is dead. What can you do again? Ya ha ha ha. Enelu laughed wildly, but the next second, the huge thunder ball burst and dissipated, the sky was clear, and the sun shone on the entire sky sanctuary again. A few seconds ago, Bai Yun, who was in the thunder ball, was in a dark environment. The space was almost covered by lingering lightning, densely packed with thunder and lightning. Damn, a bolt of lightning here can knock a person down. And Bai Yun was in it, like an invader, charging up and forcibly pushing the lightning out a channel. Maybe it was Xiao Bai's own ability, or maybe it was because he absorbed too much thunder and learned Enel's ability to expand his vision with electric waves. Bai Yun heard the prayers of Konis and others. If there really is a god, please bless them. Bai Yun repeated Konis's words and couldn't help laughing. Xiao Bai, do you believe in God? You are my god. Speechless from Bai Yun. Okay, just kidding, I lost my memory. I don't know what I thought before, but now I know my own personality. I think it's better to ask God for help than to ask God. Bai Yun was very satisfied with Xiao Bai's answer. It's better to ask God for help than to ask yourself. What you said really makes sense. So, disappear for me. Chapter 344. What an idiot. Disappear for me. As Bai Yun roared, he was seen emitting white light all over his body, until the light illuminated his figure and disappeared, looking like a floating light ball. And the next second, the light ball burst out with a huge suction force, so the air vortex was directly sucked away, and the lightning was sucked into the light ball from all directions in the form of a vortex. In just a few seconds, the lightning in the lightning ball was completely absorbed by Bai Yun. At this time, the lightning ball was just an empty shell of a cloud. As the light on Bai Yun's body burst out, the entire empty shell was shattered. And then disappeared completely. The time was just right, it refuted what Enel said about him and Luffy being unable to do anything. The thunder ball disappeared. Great! The thunder ball exploded and dissipated, and the sky was clear in an instant. Even a blind person could see it, not to mention the residents of Sky Island and the people of Shandia below. I couldn't help but feel happy. Wow, Luffy Baiun! Usopp cheered. And Walpa was slightly stunned, then reacted and shouted at the top of his voice. Ring it, Straw Hat Boy! Ring the lantern of Shandora! Gonfer couldn't help crying, little boy, let me hear the song of the island. Back in the air, the thunder ball dissipated, and Enel was still there. Baiun the figure appeared in the air, with his head held high and his chest facing the sky, free and easy. Domineering. The reference action is Crescent Moon Sky Rush, of course, it is the motherland version. However, the next second, Bai Yun fell backwards, free fall. Blowing his hair up even though his vision was not clear, Bai Yun did not forget to give Enelu an international friendly gesture. Then he turned his head and said to Luffy, who fell at the same level as him. Hit him. Luffy laughed back, showing his full teeth, stepped on Bai Yun's palm. Bai Yun waved hard, Luffy floated a little higher again, and rushed towards Enelu. And Bai Yun accelerated down. Catch me, Nami. What? Nami was in a big head. How could this nearly 3-meter tall, twice-sized man catch him? However, with a puff, the 3-meter tall man turned back into a 30-centimeter little white snake. Nami was stunned for a moment, but fortunately she caught the little snake with both hands. In Qinghai under Sky Island, in the forest of the Navy G8 fortress, Bai Yun's consciousness returned. The scene on Sky Island is over. After saying that, Bai Yun stood up, looked at the Navy base, and stepped towards it. In the consciousness space. After Bai Yun's consciousness left, the pain in his body naturally needed to be borne by Xiao Bai himself. This pain was really not light. Xiao Bai sat cross-legged and exhaled, recalling his conversation with Bai Yun. You said that even if you didn't do this, the Straw Hat Boy could break this thunder ball, so why did you do it? Isn't this just asking for trouble for yourself? Maybe, people like me really want to experience it. It's really not good to be the protagonist saving people. It's better not to have a next time. After saying this, Bai Yun's consciousness disappeared and returned to his body. What idiot! Xiao Bai murmured, not knowing whether he was scolding Baiun or scolding himself for going crazy with Baiun. He would have been fine if he just patted his butt and left, but he had to endure the pain. Although, Xiao Bai himself felt that the pain was nothing. Chapter 345, Songs on the Island. His part was over, and Xiao Bai was about to enter meditation, sleep, to recuperate. But he suddenly found a problem. Xiao Bai appeared in the air in my appearance to absorb lightning. How did the Straw Hat Boy recognize that I, referring to appearance, was Xiao Bai? Lei Ying was absorbed by Baiun and disappeared with Baiun's exit. Luffy was given a layer of buff, and the final battle began. Dragging the golden ball, Luffy could still dive towards Enel on the Arc Proverbs. Give the golden bell back. Damn it you two damn bastards. Enelu only felt that Baiun and Luffy were the evil stars of his fate. 200 million volts Thunder God. This is Enelu's strongest move. He released all the 200 million volts thunder in his body, and surrounded himself with all the released thunder and lightning, thereby transforming into a giant thunder god. His whole body was covered with blue thunder and lightning, and his body looked fat, but full of pressure. Such a posture also shocked Luffy slightly. What is this? Do you want to ring the golden bell? Do you think that ringing the golden bell again can declare the end of the war? I am a god. You are just a superhuman ability user. How can you defeat the most powerful natural series? Enelu punched, and his right arm turned into thunder and lightning to surround Luffy. Luffy gritted his teeth and continued to move forward against the lightning. It's useless to say it. What god, so noisy? Where is there a god who would not help someone in need? Luffy threw a golden ball on Enelu's right cheek. Gold is conductive, so this punch was solid, and Enelu was hit so hard that blood spurted from his mouth and nose. But he didn't just stand there and get hit. Luffy punched him and flew behind Enelu. Enelu was hit in the face, but not in his hands. He put his hands down and pressed them on the top of the Arc Proverbs, releasing lightning metallurgy. And two golden forks appeared in his hands. Then Enelu twisted his waist and turned around, and the golden fork in his left hand pierced Luffy's waist. Ugh, it's so hot! Blood flowed out, and the electric heat made Luffy's wound sizzle and emit white smoke. Ha ha ha, you can't escape, rubber boy. If you are held by your own hand, the harpoon will penetrate deeper and deeper. Or you can choose to jump down by yourself. It's great to be here, but everything ends here, and you too. Enelu smiled smugly. In his opinion, Luffy was doomed. This country will be struck by lightning again. Doomed? Where did you put the protagonist's halo? Enelu's words pierced Luffy's heart. He recalled the tears of Konis and Aisha, the way Zoro and the others were electrocuted, and the way Baiun fell from the sky. The buffs were stacked layer by layer. Luffy, who had closed his eyes in pain, opened his eyes again, his eyes full of determination. Gritting his teeth, he stepped forward, pulled his waist off the fork tip, and then jumped backward, letting the golden ball in his hand fall with him. Seeing this, Enelu smiled even more brightly. He thought Luffy had given up. Are you going to jump down by yourself? Yeah, ha ha ha. Luffy. Nami immediately leaned over to the edge of the cloud and looked down, shouting worriedly, only to see Luffy hanging in the air, holding the edge of the cloud with one hand. Get out of the way, Nami, Luffy yelled. Enelu also saw it clearly at this time, and his smile disappeared instantly. What? Ah! Don't underestimate me, big earlobes! Luffy roared, rotating his right arm with the golden ball, twisting his arm into a twist, and then using the force of the rotation and the force of his left hand to throw himself up again, level with Enelu. Rubber rubber! Luffy attacked forward. Do you want to do it again? Enelu asked. Luffy's answer was firm, until the golden bell rings. Yeah, ha ha ha. Then I'll accompany you to the end. This time I'm going to stab you into a skewer. Enelu was very confident. Luffy didn't answer this time, gritted his teeth and exerted force, hitting his twisted right arm. Golden spinning bullet. The right hand hit, and the twisted arm spun back, spinning with the golden ball, faster and faster. The moment Enelu was surprised by its speed, Luffy's fist and golden ball hit his Thunder God body directly. Gold is conductive, and the area is large enough. Enelu had no way to avoid it, and was hit to release the Thunder God body, and the whole person was hit on the golden bell. The golden ball shattered, Luffy retracted his arm, and his hands and feet beat open. Shout! Ring! The golden bell was knocked back and fell with the base as the bell swayed. The iron bell inside the bell hit the bell wall, and the bell sounded immediately. This bell sounded distant and solemn, as if it came from the sky. The sound was endless, like a stone thrown into the water. And it continued to spread to the entire Sky Island and above the Qinghai. Did you hear it, Uncle Chestnut Head Apes? The Golden Country is really looking for. Luffy shouted at the top of his voice, as if he wanted to spread the words along with the bell sound. As the bell sound spread, the south-facing birds flew up in response. The Lord of the Sky heard the familiar voice from 400 years ago and cried again. The chief of the Shandayan people burst into tears. Did you hear it, the great warrior Kalgara, the echoing sound of the lantern of Shandora? Conies, McKinley, and the residents of Angel Island also heard the song of the earth. Gonfer, like the old chief of Shandia, burst into tears. I have always believed that this day will come. Compared to the emotional tears of the old people, the young people are relatively happy. Ha ha ha, this bell, I know they can do it. Usopp jumped up happily. It's so pleasant. Miss Robin closed her eyes to enjoy the sound. Chopper was awakened. And he didn't know the situation, but he was also emotional. What is this sound? It's so beautiful. Sanji still had a cigarette in his mouth. Is this the sound that Nolando heard? It really can't be described in words. Because the foundation was broken by Enel, Zoro, and Wappa were at the broken vine under the ruins of Shandora. Zoro just listened to the bell silently. What Wappa was feeling at this time was not only the relighting of the Shandora lamp, but also the hope that the descendants of Nolando could hear this sound. And Coolie Kate, the apes, and the gorillas did hear it. Even in Qinghai, 10,000 meters below, the bells still stretched over. Luffy's figure also appeared with the Golden Country under the refraction of the sun. This is the truth of the huge monster Black Shadow. And the bell and Luffy's voice are undoubtedly telling Coolie Kate and the others. The Golden Country is there, right, Straw Hat Boy? Thank you, Coolie Kate responded, even though Luffy couldn't hear it then. Coolie Kate couldn't hold it back, lowered his head and burst into tears, saying, Great, they are safe. These tears are for Luffy and the others, and for the validation of his half-life of persistence. He cries with joy. Chapter 346. Of course it's because I care about you. I won't write the ending of the Sky Island chapter after writing about Bayun and Ace's adventure. I will directly write about Luffy and the others coming down from Sky Island and meeting Bayun at the Navy G8 fortress. Can he really wake up like this? Of course, one is not enough, then add a few more. In his hazy consciousness, Ace could hear the conversation between two people. One was Bayun's voice, and the other was someone he didn't recognize, but it should be a girl. Ace tried to open his eyes, and then... Papa! Bayun mercilessly gave Ace 2 big dicks. Ace had already opened his eyes at this time. He was already confused, and now he was even more confused. Seeing that he woke up, Bai Yun immediately changed his expression. You finally woke up, you scared me to death, Ace. Ace, brain is starting up. Why are you sitting on me? Bai Yun smiled back and stood up. Of course I care about you, of course I won't tell you so that I can slap you. Bai Yun stood by the bed, and Ace also sat up. Where is this? This is Moda's home, she was the one who fished you out of the river. Bai Yun said as he poured a glass of water and handed it to Ace. He slapped her, but he still cared about her, after all, he was awake now. Is that so? Thank you. Ace took the cup and looked at Moda, who was wearing a white headscarf and long brown hair, and thanked her. You're welcome. Then I'll go feed the cows, you guys chat. Moda smiled back, stood up, and walked out of the room, leaving space for Bai Yun and Ace to chat. Bai Yun and Ace watched her walk out with a smile, and then Bai Yun sat on the chair next to the bedside table and poured himself a glass of water. So, I kicked the wrong small-town doctor who looked like Blackbeard and whose name was also Blackbeard, so I was thrown into the creek. Then I floated here, and then Bai Yun, come over again. That's right, right. Ace went over what happened. That should be it. Bai Yun crossed his legs, drank a sip of water, and then replied leisurely, adding one more sentence. It's not that I won't save you, after all, you kicked the good doctor, and it's hard for me to do anything, right? Although you and I are both pirates, I don't want to be unforgivable. Ace laughed when he heard it. Ha 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 ha, that's right, after all, I was rude. I haven't been so embarrassed for a long time. This clothes. Ace noticed that his clothes had changed, jeans were changed to pure black, and a red short-sleeved shirt was put on. Feeling Ace's gaze, Bai Yun turned his head and looked at him. Why, if it's not me, then who is it? You still want a little girl to help you change clothes, right? After saying that, Bai Yun's gaze slowly moved to Ace's abdominal muscles, and then turned his head back and sighed. The meaning was self-evident. Ace blushed. What do you mean? I just think your abdominal muscles have become lighter. Don't just develop the fruit, you should also care about your own strength. What's wrong? What do you think it means? Bai Yun asked back, holding back his laughter. Ace is smarter than Luffy, and knows that Bai Yun must not mean this, but he can't find words to refute. Seeing him like that, Bai Yun couldn't help it, and put down the cup and laughed. Ha 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 ha, I laughed to death. This Ace couldn't bear it, and he rushed over in an instant. Damn Dan Yun. Chapter 347 Navy G2 Branch. Damn Dan Yun. Fuck, stopped abruptly. You want to rebel, bastard Ace. In the house, Ace and Bai Yun were arguing. Moda, who was feeding cows outside the house, heard it clearly and couldn't help but smile. Brother Bai Yun and brother Ace have a good relationship. After a while, Ace and Bai Yun opened the door and walked outside. Just pretend that nothing happened just now. And Moda happened to be feeding cows not far from the house. Bai Yun and Ace went over to say hello. However, Bai Yun saw Moda feeding cows with milk. Although I don't know if it's okay, I always feel weird, squeezing it out and drinking it back, right? Thank you for picking up Ace, Moda, we'll leave when the clothes are dry. During this time, is there anything Ace can help you with? Bai Yun asked. Ace glanced at him. What does Ace? Is there anything I can help you with? Shouldn't it be is there anything we can help you with? However, because he was too familiar with Bai Yun, Ace thought it was normal for Bai Yun to say that you are too polite, but there is indeed one thing that needs your help. Moda stood up and replied, just tell me, Ace will try his best to do it. Bai Yun replied. Ace couldn't help it. You bastard, you said all the nice things, and then I will do everything, right? But in front of Moda. Ace still has to be polite. Moda didn't rush to say anything, but first went to the 2 cups in the room and poured 2 cups of milk for Bai Yun and Ace. Gulp gurglia. Ace drank a big gulp like a lot of wine, but Bai Yun was different, he just swallowed a small sip. How is it? Is it delicious? Moda asked. It's delicious, very very delicious. Ace wanted to describe it, but found that he had overestimated himself. It depends on Bai Yun. Well, it tastes good, the milk is fragrant and delicious. Moda was naturally happy to hear the compliment. At this time, she took out an envelope from her arms, still a little embarrassed, hesitating whether to say it. At this time, the cow eating grass looked at Bai Yun and Ace, two strangers. Curiously, Bai Yun bent down and touched its fur. Ace also moved his eyes to Bai Yun and the cow. Maybe without the gaze, Moda felt much more relaxed. The milk at home is not selling well if it continues like this. We may have to sell the cows to maintain the pasture. Please give this letter to the guests who can buy our milk. Although Bai Yun and Ace's attention was on the cows, they heard Moda's words clearly. Bai Yun stood up and took the envelope from Moda's hand. Well, we will try our best to help you. After that, he stuffed the envelope into Ace's shirt pocket. Ace looked at the envelope in his pocket. Well, Bai Yun is right, we will try our best to help. Thank you so much. Moda bowed in gratitude. Okay, then, while the clothes are drying, Bai Yun should go and cook a meal. I haven't eaten your cooking for a long time. Ace put his arm around Bai Yun's shoulders and said, then looked at Moda again. Don't look at Bai Yun like this, his cooking is delicious. Bai Yun rolled his eyes at him. Eat, 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 you only know how to eat, and what do you mean don't look at me like this? After that, Bai Yun also looked at Moda and smiled. Where is the kitchen? Ah, this way. I'll take you there. Moda wanted to say that they were too polite, but now it seemed that there was no chance to say it. After eating, the clothes were not dry yet. Ace used fire to dry the clothes, and then he and Bai Yun came to the shore and set sail again. Bai Yun knew that he could use fire to dry the clothes just because he wanted to eat. After that, the two floated to the front of the Navy G2 branch. Chapter 348. Do you think I am as burned as you? After saying goodbye to Moda, Bai Yun and Ace went out to sea again in Ace's fire-powered boat. Although it was a bit crowded, the speed was very fast. Beiji. On the boat, Ace was eating bread again. Although he couldn't eat as much as Luffy, he also had a big appetite. And Bai Yun was fishing in sailing life. Fishing is really a good way to relieve boredom. Looking at the float that slowly moved with the boat, Bai Yun didn't know what he was thinking. Maybe he was thinking about Luffy and the others. Or maybe he was thinking about what he and Ace would face next. Bai Yun. Well, what's wrong? The float sank. Bai Yun came back to his senses, immediately picked up the fishing rod, and then picked up a clean fish hook with nothing on it. Ha, what are you thinking about, Bai Yun? After Ace laughed mercilessly, he didn't forget to ask. Bai Yun rolled his eyes at him. I'm thinking about what's the best way to kick you off. Thank you so much. Okay, let's get down to business. What do you think about the milk and teach's intelligence? Ace took out an envelope from his pocket with 2 fingers and shook it. Bai Yun was silent. I don't even want you to go to Blackbeard. You want me to give you advice, right? Alas. Bai Yun sighed deeply in his heart. Who told him that this guy was his brother? Although he always regarded Luffy, Ace, and Sabo as his brothers, wouldn't his brothers be more helpless? The strongest intelligence on the sea today is nothing more than the news agency of the dark underground world. And what else? Bai Yun paused, and Ace immediately asked. Bai Yun turned around and pointed to the back not far away. World Government Navy. Ace turned around with Bai Yun, and saw a naval base in sight, with a big G2 written on the white wall. Navy G2 branch. Get in. Bai Yun said calmly. Ace held down his cowboy hat, his mouth slightly raised. Good idea. The naval base could not be built on the sea, it must be based on an island. Navy G2 branch is not big, the front half of the island is the base, and the back half is the forest. Bai Yun and Ace first went around to the right, hid the boat, and then landed on the island. This naval base has 5 entrances, 3 of which are in front of the base. There is one on each of the mountains on the left and right. Bai Yun and Ace plan to get in from the right side door. Of course, with their current clothes, they would stand out from the crowd. So, the 2 naval soldiers patrolling the forest, oh no, they are not soldiers. They are equipment treasure chests. Just when Bai Yun was about to signal to take action, he saw Ace whoosh, and his lower body turned into an element and flew out. He punched one of them in the head first, then he kicked the other guy in the face after his lower body recovered to his feet. After landing, Ace turned his back to Bai Yun, showing a side profile with a smile on his lips. Bai Yun, change your clothes quickly. That's true. Ace replied, and then began to strip the Navy's clothes under his feet. Bai Yun thought to himself that you are quite skilled, but it's really a bit weird for him to strip a grown man's clothes. Bai Yun had just taken off the soldier's vest and was about to put it on when he heard, "Aren't you going to take off your vest?" Bai Yun was startled and turned around to see that Ace had already put on his clothes. His pants were still his own pants. He had replaced the red shirt with a soldier's vest and the cowboy hat with a soldier's cap. It's just right to put it on. Why take it off? Bai Yun replied while putting on the vest. Isn't it hot? Ace asked innocently. Bai Yun suddenly thought of a good answer and replied with a smile. Do you think I'm as furious as you? Ace. Chapter 349 Xiao Fequan is here. Put on the Navy soldier's vest and put on the hat. Just like that, Ace and Bai Yun swaggered and naturally mixed into the Navy G2 branch. As expected, people in the pirate world are face-blind. Even Bai Yun's reputation is not high. As the captain of Whitebeard's second team, Ace must have a great reputation. But he can't be recognized just by changing his clothes. Ha 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 ha, I really got in. In the corridor, Bai Yun and Ace walked side by side. Bai Yun was speechless. You want to announce it to the world, right? At a corner, a large group of soldiers appeared. Ace and Bai Yun subconsciously wanted to make an attacking posture, but stopped abruptly. The leading soldier saw the two. You guys. Ace and Bai Yun, X. What are you still doing here? It's lunchtime. The soldier changed the subject and said with a smile. Ah. Ace hadn't reacted yet. And Bai Yun immediately started acting. I saw that everyone hadn't arrived yet, so I wanted to inform you. Ha ha ha, that's really thoughtful. Ya, what's your name? Faced with the soldier's question, Bai Yun replied without pause. Oliver. He's Mike. Ace looked at Bai Yun with admiration, so amazing. The soldier narrowed his eyes. Oliver Mike. Ace's fists were silently. He clenched his fist, thinking he was exposed. Nice name. Ha ha ha, let's go to the cafeteria together, everyone is hungry. The soldier pointed in front of them, behind Bai Yun and the others, and said, Where is the cafeteria? Ace spread his fists when he heard it. Of course. Bai Yun simply answered with 2 words at this time. The more he said, the more mistakes he made. Came to the cafeteria. Pushed open the door. Wow! In the self-service cafeteria, Ace felt like he had come to heaven. He picked up the plate and started to pick up the dishes, and he had everything. Bai Yun couldn't help but sigh. The 2 brothers were the same. Among the 4 brothers, only he and Sabo had the useless reservation, although being able to eat was also a blessing. Holding the plate and finding a seat, Ace and Bai Yun sat down and started eating, which reminded Bai Yun of the days in the high school cafeteria. As for why it was not college, it was because he came to this world before he had time to study. Because it was in the enemy camp, it was not easy to talk about anything. The 2 brothers ate silently. Ace's eating manner was still as unsightly as before, a bit like Luffy's, but he knew not to splash Bai Yun, otherwise, just like Luffy splashed Nami, the consequences would be serious. Whitebeard. Isn't he just a remnant of the old times, the strongest man in the world at his age? How long can he live? At this time, behind Ace and the others, the voice of a soldier who had not seen Whitebeard's strength and was ignorant of the world came over. Ace was eating, and his clear and stupid eyes changed instantly. He stopped eating, as if he could see fire in his eyes. Such an expression was not too ferocious, and his eyebrows were slightly tilted. Bai Yun understood that this was when Ace was most angry. He also wanted to test it. Before Ace moved, Bai Yun reached out and held Ace's hand. Ace was stunned and looked at Bai Yun. Bai Yun shook his head slightly. Ace was also stunned for a moment, but then smiled and shook his head slightly. Then he pulled his hand out from Bai Yun's hand, turned around and ran towards the soldier who said that. Here comes the flying punch. He punched the man and sent him flying and lying on the ground. The scene instantly became quiet. Only Bai Yun was still eating calmly. Chapter 350 Navy Lieutenant Ace. Because the soldier insulted Whitebeard. This was something Ace could not tolerate. Even though Bai Yun reminded him that they were in disguise, Ace still took action. He turned around and punched the soldier, who spun 360 degrees in the air and fell to the ground. The originally lively and happy lunch scene instantly became quiet. Only Bai Yun was still eating calmly, and at the same time he sighed silently in his heart. Although he knew that the situation was different now, Ace's impulsive personality when he heard Whitebeard being scolded should not be allowed. Mike. Before, at the corner, Bai Yun and Ace met the leader of the team. His name was Carl, and he should not be just an ordinary soldier at this time. He was surprised to call Ace's name. Internal fighting in the Navy is very serious. Mike. After Carl realized what was happening, he immediately shouted. Why did you hit Jace? Ace went crazy and told Carl that it was because this Jace cursed his father Whitebeard. Because he smacked his lips while eating. Ace said seriously. Carl was stunned. Just like that, you hit his mouth crooked because he smacked his lips. You have to go and get the punishment yourself. What Carl wanted to say was that if Ace went to get the punishment himself, the punishment would be lighter. Who knew that? Before he finished speaking, Ace exchanged glances with Bai Yun, turned around, picked up the plate and spoon, and ran away. He didn't forget to eat even when he was running away. Asshole, catch him! Seeing this, Carl immediately ordered the arrest of Ace. The soldiers received the order, picked up their weapons, and chased out in a mighty manner. Carl turned around and looked at Bai Yun, who was still eating, feeling Carl's eyes. He shrugged innocently, indicating that it had nothing to do with me. Mike's personality is indeed a bit stubborn and explosive. I apologize for him, Chief Carl. What will he be punished if he is caught? I think cleaning the toilet is a good decision. Bai Yun stood up and put the plate on the cart. When lunchtime is over, someone will come to push the cart away and wash it. Fighting is not allowed. Besides, he hit someone unilaterally, which is not something that can be solved by cleaning the toilet. Carl lost his previous enthusiasm and replied sternly. Oh, really? Then I can only pray that my friend can bear the punishment. Bai Yun smiled and replied, and then walked out of the cafeteria. Where? Here, Ace is running away. Obviously, it is not a clear decision to expose his identity as Fire Fist. Ace here running away is the best choice. Coming to a fork in the road, Ace hesitated which way to turn. At this time, a door on the right opened and a man walked out, judging from the armband on his clothes. His rank was Major. You, come. The Major felt a little strange when he saw Ace still holding the plate, but he still called him, probably because he had something to ask him to do. Without waiting for him to finish the word come over, Ace took the initiative to run over. The Major couldn't handle the action so fast and fiercely, and then he was kicked back into the room. Ace immediately went in and kicked him twice more. Then he put down the plate and stripped off his clothes and put them on again. Lieutenant Commander Ace appeared. He picked up the plate to eat again. The soldiers behind him ran over and saw his back in the room. Without a trace of hesitation, they continued to chase him. He heard the footsteps gradually become quieter until they disappeared. Ace stuck his head out and saw that there was no one in the corridor. He breathed a sigh of relief. Hey! But before he could relax, a soldier came running around the corner, only one, and ran straight to the office. Ace wanted to hide. But he thought about it, he was a naval officer now, so why hide? He immediately stuffed the stripped major under the desk, then picked up the plate, put on a calm expression and continued to eat.